Thanos.
Oh,
is dummy
Thanos
thick.
thick as
Thanos
fuck.
is dummy thick.
That-
He
I agree
is.
with-
He's
now I
got
get it.
freaking
Now
tree
I get
trunk
it.
legs.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we're live.
What's
Got some
really
thunder
funny about
thighs.
I'm looking at the graph of dummy thick, and it literally has no references until January of 2018, and then it just skyrockets through the roof.
It was because of Thanos and his dummy thick ass.
Well, it's just
Perfectly balanced.
What he did. Yeah.
It's a hot
Yeah.
off the presses meme for sure. Like, this is very recent. It's not one of the ones that's evolved over a long
Hot
period of
off
time.
the presses meme.
So that wasn't the snap of his fingers. That was the clap of his ass.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
There we go.
Shit.
Killed half of all population.
Yeah.
That's it. That was a fart.
Was it just people, or was it insects and animals too, or was it just people?
All living things. I
People
think.
said that it was all living things. Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't get insect perspective.
We
I
didn't,
don't
and
know.
we've got a guy named Ant-Man.
Are plants alive? I don't know.
Wasp and
I don't think they have a conscious thought, but they're alive for sure.
Yeah,
And
maybe
they're
it's,
delicious.
maybe it's all, yeah, maybe it's all things with conscious thought. They'll get it.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, because we didn't see anything else disappear except for humans.
this is one of those things that's not really worth thinking about, right? 'Cause it's
So,
like-
oh, absolutely,
Absolutely.
fucking lootly.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there.
That
buddy.
is this
Someone-
conversation.
this
is
is
dumb-
like
is dummy
asking
thick.
about
Definitely-
what's.
we definitely
This
don't need to be
conversation
talking
is
about this
dumb.
right
Here,
now.
I have a question, guys. What spells does Gandalf know? Like, what specific ones does he know?
Oculus
like-
Reparo.
Yeah,
Right, like, I mean, it's just
about
like, fuck you.
Expelliarmus?
Don't ask about Gandalf's spells. Like, he just knows magic. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
you're
he don't
not
know
supposed to
spells. He
fucking-
knows magic.
see.
You're not
He
supposed
is
to-
magic.
he knows
He
knows
just
how
is
to
magic.
he knows how to bleach some clothes.
There's the big difference between Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter is they do spells, and Lord of the Rings is just magic.
magic.
But
Well,
yeah, when he
there's
makes
a there's a specific literary term for it. I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast, but it's soft magic
Magic.
versus hard magic. Soft magic is Lord of the Rings. Hard magic is Harry Potter. Like, those are literally the examples given.
Hard
when you're
magic
young-
is my stripper name.
It's way too erotic.
When you're young, you have hard magic. When you're old, you have soft magic.
Mhm.
Because Gandalf's
Yeah.
old, and but like that part where he makes the boat out of smoke and it goes through that's all him just thinking of magic, I guess. Because it doesn't like he does, Smokus Devotus or something, and then make it go through the
Yeah, how dumb would that be?
right.
To
That'd be
name
pretty dumb.
every little.
Frodo,
spell.
Smokus Devokus, and then just be really dumb.
Wow, Gandalf.
Dummy thick.
Dana, did you see the I sent Dana a TikTok today that was making fun of the end of Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings.
and I was thinking about that scene. I was like, that is a ridiculous thing, but
Talking about
I
the
mean-
scene where Frodo's waking up and everybody's laughing. Like, it's such a feel-good scene, but if you take it out
Yeah.
of context, it's so fucking weird.
Out of
That was the
context, it's
intro
very
to
weird.
a porn.
I know.
wait, out of context, it's very strange. But when you take into consideration that they almost all just died several
Yeah.
times over, and they're finally back in the same room again, I jump on a bed.
Yeah.
I'm
It-
so
it-
bad.
I've seen that
I'm
before, where
sorry.
like when your bro gets laid for the first time.
Oh.
That's
Was
funny.
the oldest version of that scene as a meme was that one where that guy dubbed it and he made everyone's eyes cross.
Yeah.
he wakes up, he's like, "Ugh."
God dang it. Yeah.
That one's
I do
really
love
old.
that that they like point out too that Frodo and Legolas don't actually really know each other or have talked to each other very much at all.
That's true, huh?
Good enough. They do the silent nod, you know.
Well,
It's a bro nod.
there's like the
Yeah.
Like,
From
people
across
who
the
watch
Shire or
the movies
whatever.
talk about like how Frodo and Legolas don't ever really interact. Like, I think Legolas
Is
says
that
one.
true? They really don't.
I'm pretty
talk?
sure Legolas
Yeah.
says exactly one line to Frodo in the entire series, and Frodo
might
doesn't
be
even
right.
respond to him. It's like,
What? That's funny.
Yeah,
I never thought
and-
about that.
and Frodo never says his name. That, like, in that scene in particular, he says everybody's name except for Legolas, who walks in, and Frodo looks at him like, and then Aragorn walks in. He's like, Aragorn.
So
Maybe-
Google says that the two of them only spoke once in the entire trilogy.
I think it's that moment when he gives him his bow, right? And you have my
Oh,
bow.
And
That's
you
it.
have my bow. Yeah, sure.
And then that's the only line ever spoken.
Really?
between them.
He's probably jealous of Legolas' ability to walk on top of snow.
That is pretty cool.
That is a pretty sexy
Mm.
ability.
You know,
I'd be
that's
I'd be
funny 'cause
jealous too.
I saw that as a kid, like watching those movies for so many times, and then I finally read the books, and it's in the books. It's just like
Yeah,
a
it
quick
is in
little
the
thing
books, yeah.
where he's walking on the snow. He's walking on top of the snow, and everyone's like, "This fucking dude." But in the movie, he just happens to be walking on the snow for this. Very,
You're just supposed to
very
know
quick
that this is
couple
what they can
scenes.
do.
Yeah,
When he's lived for like
apparently.
1,000 years, you just kind of, that's one of those things you figure
Yeah.
out. Is how to walk on snow.
Yeah,
acquired.
I'd be
What are your
so
spare
bored.
time hobbies?
I'd be so
Yeah.
bored for 1,000 years. I would absolutely
comes to
walk
you.
on snow.
Throw that in
He
your
actually
toolbox.
cast Snow to Kiss, Flow to Kiss. So that's
That's more hard magic.
Yeah.
more hard magic. Yeah, it's elven magic. Yeah.
If you really
You
pay
have to-
attention, he's floating on a smoke boat.
That's gross.
Smoke boat. Smoke boat's playing the Mohawk.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Smoke boat.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
for a really hot woman is a smoke boat, right? Oh, she's
Yeah.
a smoke boat, bro.
Yeah. That's even
Yeah,
hotter than
smoke
a smoke
show.
show. Mm-hmm. Hotter
She's
Well,
a-
she was
she's a
thick.
dummy thick.
If
she's
she
a
was
dummy
dummy
smoke boat.
thick,
a
Dummy
dummy
thick
thick
smoke
attractive.
boat.
Yeah, dummy
She
thick
was-
smoke boat.
She's thicker than Thanos.
Dummy thick smoke boat.
dummy thick smoke boat's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
Oh man, that girl's thick. No, she dummy smick smoke boat.
That
Dummy-
girl's
dummy
dummy
mixed smoke boat.
McFlurry.
dummy mix smoke boat.
Dummy mixed smoke boat.
Remember, I forget
Oh,
now what it
God.
was. It was some
Dummy
some
mix
boat in
smoke
the
boat.
Royal English Chinese Navy or whatever the hell it was. But they asked
Royal
people
Boat.
to name it.
Oh, Bodie
And
McBoatface.
yeah, Bodie McBoatface, and they refused to use like you losers.
Come on.
It's the
Come
best.
on,
Yeah.
You're
Boatface.
asking the internet a question. You know what you're going to get in return.
You're gonna get the best answer possible.
Yeah, Bodie McBoatface.
That's like the time I think the artist Pitbull, famous rapper, was sent to Alaska to a Walmart to perform
Yeah, they were
because
like,
Wow.
the internet shows where should Pitbull perform.
Hey,
Go
it
to
was a
small
Walmart
town in
promotion.
Alaska.
Yeah, he could be voted into any Walmart, and they chose one in a tiny town. in
Really?
Alaska.
Yeah,
He agreed
That's
to
awesome.
this.
never
he went.
trust the
He-
internet.
To his credit, he did go and perform there.
Yeah.
free trip to Alaska. You know,
Yeah. Why not? He's probably
Yeah,
never
I'd
been
go.
there.
I do it.
I
Just,
really
I
wanna
just go to the
I'd love
Walmart
to
though,
go.
turn around and leave.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't see the Alaska. I actually went to high school with a kid who was from Alaska.
Yeah. Isn't it only daylight like X amount of hours?
Are you thinking 30 Days of Night, the movie?
He is. He is. Everything Jeremy knows about Alaska is based on 30 Days of Night.
That's fair.
Like,
That's
I'm
fair.
just letting you know now.
But definitely one of my favorite bands, Portugal the
And
Man,
mine too.
is from Wasilla, Alaska.
Portugal,
Really?
the man.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're great. I have a poster right up there.
We believe you.
I mean, they
Take your
had
word
one
for it.
good album, and then they started making like generic pop music. So shouts out to
Damn.
Portugal.
I
the Man.
like 3 good albums.
Damn.
I only like the first one that has All Your Light on it.
It's fair.
Hmm.
No, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. So
Just esoteric music, man. Like, no, fucking,
I would probably hate it.
we're not impressing
I think you
anybody.
probably
you know,
would
You know the song.
probably hate.
You know one of their
Portugal
What
the
songs. Feel It Still.
Yeah. It's not their best song. They have
I
some
like
really
that song
good
a lot.
songs.
That's
Yeah,
a
Oh,
good
All
song.
it's a
Your
great
Light's their best
song.
How does it go?
But
Because
it's also
Portugal
not
the
their
Man,
best.
this sounds familiar.
And feel
Yeah.
it still.
They're on K-Rock.
I'm sure I've heard it.
Bringing it back to K-Rock.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard it.
I'm surprised you've heard of them, Ben. They're on K-Rock.
Oh, now I know it's.
That's the funny thing. Is,
Good call,
That's
Jeremy.
fine. I
They
know now.
came on
That's
the
a good song.
radio, and I was like, I can't believe Portugal the Man is on the radio. And Dana's like, it's just this one pop song, and I was
And
like,
that's the only song where they do the, where the guy does the
The high pitched
song-
vocals.
when you sing like a girl.
Falsetto.
It's called something falsetto. Thank you.
All
He's
of
it's
using
their
his
only-
head
songs.
voice.
Sorry, it's
Yeah,
head voice,
he also just speaks very high pitch. Like he just has a very high voice
really.
naturally. Yeah. Which sounds a little weird when you first hear him talking. You're like, oh, I thought it was put on, but it's not.
It's just natural.
Yeah.
Naturally put on.
Yeah.
And
But,
speaking
but,
of,
but that album I think was produced by Danger Mouse, so that's why it got real poppy.
yeah, I recall. I actually listened to that album, didn't particularly enjoy it.
Mhm.
Speaking of not enjoying things,
Hey,
Oh shoot!
what are we talking about today?
How dare you?
wait,
Hot take.
no,
Oh,
I
man.
didn't.
dare you.
Are we
I-
talking about
I
bad
meant-
opinions?
No, I meant about his perspective, like in the movie. He's not enjoying things. I
is that-
enjoyed
is that
the
what it is?
movie.
Is that what it is?
I was like, he's
Okay.
having a bad go at it.
Nice
is what I'm
save,
saying.
shit.
Good
Yeah.
recovery there.
That's That's not a save. That was my actual intent. I just had to explain myself because I was
It's very clever.
misinterpreted.
It was
Nice-
very clever.
Nice save, shit lord.
Jesus. Oh God, everybody doesn't like my opinion. I've never been here before.
Right? Something
Oh,
new you're
God.
trying out.
Oh, I forgot my pink hoodie.
Hold on. Important important question, Ben. What are you drinking?
Oh, it's some Japanese whiskey. It's called Akashi.
I like your eyes too. It's like square or something.
Yeah,
got a highball.
I got those. I got those. I'm drinking out of a crystal wine glass too. You can tell I'm real fancy.
I was gonna say that's
Nice.
a stemless wine glass.
Japanese
Got it.
whiskey from a crystal wine glass with
Oh, you're
a
such
highball
a
ice cube.
Hipster.
I
What
switched.
the
I
fuck?
switched putting my Negroni in those glasses to just the Yeti, so it stays cool throughout this whole show.
Nice. That's the way to
Well,
go.
I mean, a big part of enjoying whiskey for me is like it gets more drinkable the further you get as the ice melts.
Of course.
And so I can't put it into like a fucking hydro flask because then it'll just be like whiskey the entire time.
It can't mellow. Yeah, you gotta let it
Valid.
mellow.
That's a good
Valid
point.
for whiskey, for sure.
Is that what
And
it's
Sailor
called?
Jerry's.
Yeah, that's right.
well,
I'm
Sailor
white
Jerry's is a
trash.
whiskey, right?
It's a spiced
rum.
rum,
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
okay.
rum.
Never mind.
but it's 100 and something proof.
It's nicer than like Captain.
It's
Morgan,
better than
right?
Captain Morgan. It's
Mm.
better than
Yeah.
all of
Is
them
Sailor
because of the higher
Jerry's
proof.
better than Captain Morgan? I thought the whole
Yeah,
point of Sailor
absolutely.
Jerry's was that it was like off-brand Captain Morgan.
Captain Morgan's is sweeter
Ugh. Yeah. I don't
because
like
it's it's
Sailor
it's like an 80 proof or something. Where Sailor
Mhm.
Jerry's is 101 or something.
It'll get
I
you.
don't know. I have some in my
Yeah.
freezer.
Huh.
So does it goes Captain Morgan, Sailor Jerry's, and then Black Kraken, I'm assuming, right? Like that's the order of
It's only
seafaring rums.
Sailor Jerry's for me.
Mm.
It's the
Have
only
you
one
ever
I
had
drink.
Kraken?
Doesn't sound good.
It looks cool.
It's like 120 proof, dude.
Oh, I would love it.
It
It's,
I like
wrecks-
it's,
Kraken.
it's not bad.
Really?
It wrecks
bad.
house,
I
man.
don't mind
Yeah.
it. But I'd never had Sailor Jerry's before we did anything with Star Wars.
I have a crap can theory that the higher the proof, the better the taste, right? So like
Mhm.
vodka, same thing. 80 proof, tastes
Yeah.
good as plastic melted into it. 100 proof just tastes better when you
So
when you
what
mix it.
about
obviously.
like do you like Everclear? Like where is
No.
there's gotta be an upper limit, right?
Yeah, I
like the
mean,
band.
it's the only time I've ever blacked out was on Everclear.
Oh really?
And I
Man.
threw up. I ended up. So I remember going to the bar. Quick story. So me and my brother Danny, Doug's brother Danny, also and Danny's uncle, we're drinking Everclear, and I
It's
remember
all
going. I
D-names.
remember getting
Yeah.
to the bar.
Yeah, it's terrible.
All 8 of us would do this. I remember getting to the bar, and the next thing I remember, the lights come on, and this girl's screaming at me, and I'm like, "What the hell's going on here? Why is she in the bathroom screaming at me?" I thought I was in the bathroom throwing up in the toilet. I was actually in her mom's closet, and I'd opened the bottom drawer, and I was throwing up in the drawer. That's why I don't drink Everclear. And she was screaming at me like, "That's my mom's closet." I don't remember getting to this place. I don't remember.
you thought you were still at the bar.
I thought I was in the bathroom actually,
Oh, okay.
You thought
throwing
you
up
were
in the toilet.
bathroom of a bar though, or
No, I didn't know
No,
where. I didn't know where I was.
oh, gotcha.
Some bathroom.
So,
Wow.
but I had 100% blacked out and had this whole night, apparently,
Holy hell.
and had no memory of it. But yeah, I thought the drawer that I was throwing up into was the toilet that I lifted the lid on. I just opened the drawer and I was throwing up all of her mom's underwear or something.
See, the
Just
trick
say.
with Everclear is that it's so strong you'll black out and forget how bad it tastes.
Yeah,
There you
it,
go.
it happened
Oh,
so
that's what
fast
happens.
because I was drinking it as if it was just a regular 100 proof vodka, and it just slipped into my memory and erased it. But it was weird because it was weird that I had this whole entire night and met this person and had no memory of any of it.
You could
Pretty
argue
rad.
that you
Jeez.
basically never had Everclear because you don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you-
My first experience with Everclear was like where they would soak cherries in them.
Yeah.
And anytime you soak fruit with alcohol, it's just solid alcohol that burns. It tastes
Mhm.
terrible.
Yeah.
So
dangerous.
that's probably the worst way to experience Everclear.
Yikes.
Or the best.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Danny used to make these
You'll never know.
strawberry daiquiris with Everclear, and he called it a rubber cricket. And it it was a night ender.
A night ender.
I'm telling you,
That's
man.
what he should have called it.
Like we had this. It was 1,000 years ago now. Of course, we had this party, and all the the guys from work showed up with the wives and everything. And we were supposed to start out. This wasn't a party. Actually, we're just starting off at the apartment and then going to the club. We never made it to the club. By 9 o'clock, everyone was shit faced
9
because of the
o'clock.
rubber crickets. And then the next day, all the guys were like, "Whatever you made those wives was amazing." You know, they loved him that night. Didn't love them a long time, I guess.
Maybe not.
So yeah, I don't drink
Oh,
Everclear.
ma'am.
So
Mm-mm.
Man. I
dangerous.
was hoping your story was going to end with you waking up on a hospital bench in Vietnam in the 60s.
Let's get that nice segue in.
Yeah, nice segue.
That'd be
Yeah, I
interesting.
can
Good.
come up with segues all night, man. You keep going on standards. I got
Because
you covered.
we watched Jacob's Ladder. And I kind of feel like I want to grab that wine bottle that I am never going to drink.
Really quickly, the
You
first
should.
time you guys saw the word
Alright, that's all I need.
segue, yeah, go grab the wine bottle. You first saw the word segue in text. Did you think it was segue? Me neither.
No.
I didn't. Just asking. What about
What was
the name
the-
Buchanan? Did you think it was Butchanan?
Uh,
Just asking.
I don't think I thought that
Buchanan's?
Buchanan was. I don't think I thought Buchanan was pronounced Buchanan, but I don't.
What
think I thought
about-
it was Butchanan.
No,
Yeah,
I
I saw it
thought
and I'm like,
Buchanan. Yeah.
I was like, this can't be because there's no canon in it, right? But then I said it out loud. I went, oh, Butchanan doesn't make sense, but Buchanan does.
Because
What about,
I've heard
um,
most things before I've read it, and so I
Yeah.
make a connection.
Yeah.
I didn't know what segue was. It's not like I saw
Sure,
it and
yeah.
know that it was
Yeah.
segue.
Mhm.
Yeah. That word specifically, I would think Segue. Yeah.
What
for
about-
sure. And I'm like, what the
I
hell's a
tried to
segue?
type out Buchanan's once, and it kept auto correcting to the correct, spelling.
But
And I was
Butchanan.
like, what the
Butchanan.
hell, Siri? I'm just trying to get to Buchanan's.
And it kept changing it to
And
Butchanan,
it
and
keeps
you were like,
autocorrecting
what
to Buchanan's.
yeah,
Buchanan.
What is wrong with you, Siri?
dumbass Siri. Exactly.
Don't know how to
Siri.
spell?
You don't know.
No.
Man, I did
So that
think
happened.
that biopic was biopic for a long time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
did I think
That's fair.
I did think that Reneg was Renege.
Renege. Yeah.
I do remember.
Yeah.
reading
It
it.
still is.
Yeah.
It still is Renege.
Ben thought agape was agape.
Oh yeah.
Which
is a word. I mean, That's not fair because it's the name of a tattoo shop that's spelled agape, and they're just like, no, it's the Italian word agape. It means love or whatever the fuck.
But I do want to say that for Segway, just always the fact that I put in is the guy that invented the Segway
Died on
died by riding a Segway off a cliff
Did he really?
At his own house.
at his own house.
What?
my hero.
I didn't know that.
Rode
That
his
guy's-
Segway off a
Everyone
cliff
should
and
know
to his
it.
death.
And so
He's like, I'm going out on my own terms.
That guy is an American hero. That's
and
exactly how
I
you
don't
should
think
die.
I don't think they ruled it a suicide. I think
No,
they
he
just-
accidentally lost control, man. It was an experimental Segway, and it went fucking zipping off the cliff.
It's a prototype.
yeah.
Did it
It's
have
fucked
those
up.
auto brakes that didn't work or something?
Jeez.
Oh, you guys see that video? I think it's a Volvo or something like that. I don't know what it is. But it's supposed to have these, and the guy, the president of the company tries to test it out, and it runs right into him and makes
Oh,
him eat
yep.
shit. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
How about them?
That's funny.
How about that auto detect brakes there? Whatever the hell they're supposed to be. Really quick, one more word. A facade was another one that I thought.
A facade?
Facade. I was what's a facade? I didn't make any sense.
I've definitely.
And
I've definitely
chaos.
said
Okay, so another one.
Chaos.
Chaos. I thought it
I've
was
never
chaos, but I
not-
didn't know what chaos was.
Chaos didn't get me when I was growing
Chasm.
up.
Chasm.
Well-
Chasm.
Chasm
Well,
did.
We had
Chasm
these
got me for a long time. Chaos did not though.
when we were kids. We were big fans of Jaws 3 and 3D, which came out in 1983. And I had these gum cards, and one of them said something about chaos, and I said I thought it was chaos. And I remember saying chaos, and Doug was the one like, "You dumbass, it's chaos." I'm like, "What? I'm dumb. What? I didn't know things."
So
And then-
Yeah.
oh, you go.
Go ahead. No, I'm just blabbing more.
No, I
jargon
just
stuff.
interrupted in the worst possible way.
Yes, you did.
God damn
created
it,
pretty
Brent.
You created
chaotic.
some chaos.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say the main word that still gets me because my dad was a colonel in the Air Force. Colonel.
Colin,
It is spelled colonel.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
that one.
There's no
That
R.
one got me.
It's a bullshit word.
Yeah, it's
There's also
it's one of the
Colonel
problems with
a K.
English.
Mhm.
It's one of the
It's
problems
even
with English
worse with-
is
The UK one, lieutenant in the UK is pronounced lieutenant with a hard
Yeah.
F.
Yeah.
Left.
Well, they had a bunch of
That's
vowels
why
in their
they
words,
say it that way.
like aluminium. You're adding vowels.
Hey, aluminium is the better pronunciation. It sounds
it's more fun.
badass.
Yeah, it's more fun.
It's more fun, but as a proud American, it's aluminum.
Sure.
Aluminium bat. That doesn't have the same ring.
like
that.
Well, if you say it with an English accent, then it works, right? If you say it with an American accent, then it's just dumb.
Yeah.
It's important.
I'm
Aluminium
American.
cricket paddle.
That would
I
hurt.
don't think you would make aluminium cricket paddles. It's got to be wood.
Yeah, but they don't play baseball in the UK. I mean, come on, they don't have
Yeah.
bats there.
They don't have good sports.
So we're talking about
Yeah.
Jacob's Ladier.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so Jacob's Ladder. And he's leaving.
Which is a fucking. I mean, honestly, this is a very heavy movie to digest. It's pretty
Oh,
concise. It's not even 2 hours long, but it's got
Yeah.
like a lot of very meaningful. This time, last week we had a fucking movie that pretended to be meaningful, and you dug into it, and you're like, "This isn't meaningful at all." I feel like Jacob's
Yeah.
Ladder. I've actually had a really good time, kind of dissecting it post watch. I don't know if you guys had the same experience or if you were just like, "Whoa."
It's the reason why I suggested it last time after watching Mr. Nobody is because I felt like it does what Mr. Nobody tries to do, but 10,000 times better. Even though they're two different movies, really,
Mhm.
two different concepts, but it's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
where-
thematically very different, presentation wise, kind of similar.
Yeah. That's like when I was watching Mr. Nobody, the whole time I was thinking about Jacob's Ladder and how much this feels like a Jacob's Ladder to me. So I don't know. Now that you guys have seen, I know Brent, you've seen Jacob's Ladder. Doug,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. Jeremy, we showed it to you one time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see a similarity or no? Was it just me?
Definitely, especially the major themes about life decisions and that kind of thing. I see it now. I wouldn't have connected the dots even watching it last night when I turned it on. I was like, I don't really know how this fits in with Mr. Nobody. But as the movie goes on, yeah, I totally see the big themes lining up.
This reminded me of another movie with Ryan Gosling that was a terrible, horrible movie.
Oh, Drive.
How dare you?
How
Get the
dare
fuck
you?
outta
I
what are you
fucking
talking
love Drive.
about?
All
That's
Ryan
a great
Gosling
movie.
movies are fantastic.
Yeah.
The
except for this
Gos
one.
Man rules.
You really don't like Drive?
Well, oh no, I was just kidding. Drive. Is
Okay.
fine. It's not a great movie.
I'm about
It's
to have a
fine.
problem.
Do you put your pink hoodie on?
He does have
You're
a
gonna
pink
keep
light
talking
on.
shit like this.
Get the hoodie on.
Better get that hoodie on.
Better come properly dressed, sir. I can't remember what the name of the movie is, but basically, I'll ruin it for you because it's already ruining itself because it's terrible. So
Nice.
this guy is in a car accident, and then he like wakes up in the hospital, like goes about his day and all that stuff, and he's in this relationship with this painter, and they live in this loft on the side of the bridge where this car accident happens, and he's going to a therapist and stuff for the car accident and all that, and all this stuff goes on, and then turns out at the end of the movie he actually died in the car accident, but he's living out the last 5 seconds of his conscious thought, and so he's pulling from things in the environment. So he's pulling this entire relationship from this woman that he sees, in 2 seconds in the window of this apartment, and then this entire relationship with the therapist because some dude's pulling him out of the wreck or something like that. It's a really terrible movie, and it's just, by the time you get to the end of it, it's kind of one of those movies just like, wow, they could have told this story very differently and it would have made sense, but the way that they told it this way kind of makes it feel like I wasted an hour and a half of my life. And I
Jeez.
kind of felt the same way about Jacob's Ladder. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh,
So
dear.
spoilers
All right,
for
hold
people
on.
who haven't watched it.
Movie.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
This
I
is-
have a
I wanna
I
get
have a
into it.
question. I have a question for everybody because I don't know how to say this without being like, I'm so smart. I feel like I understood that this was about him being dead or dying in Vietnam pretty quickly. Like,
Yes, I did too.
Yeah.
like not immediately, but probably around right after the chiropractor when he goes and tries to talk to the doctor and find his friend. I was like, oh, this guy's like dead.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of like, I don't know if you're supposed to understand that so early on in the movie, but it certainly felt like it detracted a little bit from like the twist at the end.
I mean, this was definitely not an M. Night Shyamalan Sixth Sense twist level
Oh, yeah.
movie. I think for me, it always hit on the staircase with the palm reader. That was like the first
Yeah.
case where it's like you have hints of it, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay,
Like
now,
they
now
literally
you're with
tell
him
you,
on this
they're like,
journey."
you're dead, and
Exactly.
you as the audience are like, maybe they're being facetious. No, no, they
Nope.
literally just told you. But
Yeah.
the first thing that I noticed, and this is how I knew he was already dead, is that when he's in the chiropractic thing and he's got his shirt off, he doesn't have that knife wound. And a big
Oh,
thing.
that's a good eye. I
a
never
big thing
actually
and,
noticed that.
and a lot of stuff like this is if someone dies of like trauma or a wound or something like that, when they're portraying them in their purgatory state or afterlife state or whatever, they don't have that wound. And so I
Yeah.
noticed that immediately. Like when he stands up, I was like, oh, he's dead. Okay, cool. Moving on. So
Yeah.
maybe it probably ruined it. For
I
me
don't
'cause it took
remember.
me
I
out
don't
a
remember
lot of
catching
it,
it
but-
that early, to be quite.
I've
quite
seen the movie
honest with you.
1,000 times. I've never noticed that.
Yeah, that's a very
He
good
doesn't
eye.
have the wound.
Well,
And-
that particular thing, I definitely never noticed. But even more broadly, I remember the first time I saw it catching on at some point, but it wasn't abundantly clear to me. This time I watched it. From that Vietnam scene at the beginning of the movie, I was like, "Oh, that's right," because I actually kind of forgot how this movie went. And then when that Vietnam scene happens at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, that's right, he's dead." So
Because
it kind of clicked.
Well,
the-
he's not
the
dead.
second
He's
time around.
dying, right?
Yeah.
That's-
Dying.
That,
Dying.
that
Yeah,
immediate
yeah.
scene though leaves it vague. It could have been before or after. So you're still, as the audience member, first time watch, like figuring it out up to
Yeah.
a point.
Yeah, well, I
Right.
think that they try to. It seems like the writing tries to make it clear that his New York life is basically just trying to lie to him and trick him into thinking that it's like a foregone conclusion. You know?
Yeah, his real life is with his family and son, Macaulay
Well,
Culkin, who's been
he's-
home alone the whole movie.
Yeah.
Did you
But I
write
think
that
I-
joke while you were watching it?
just wrote it-
That was
Get him-
too.
right now.
That was too good.
He's that fast. So like I think that the whole he's, and this is a tough one to pull off because remember this movie's 1990, right? And so it's been barred from a lot, and you guys are, especially being movie fans at your age and with the age of the internet, you're way more, I talk about this a lot, that the audience now is way more sophisticated than it's ever been, whether it means to be or not. People are way more sophisticated as an audience now than they've ever been, because of the internet and because you can research things. And if you can't research things have been barred from so heavily from movies like this that paved the way for. No, this movie at the end of the day is still, oh, it was all a dream, right? That really is, which is can be
Yeah.
seen as a cheap excuse, a cheap ending. You know what I mean? And I think the only reason this movie has always worked for me is because the presentation is so terrifying and amazing and asks a lot of questions, and it's a mystery the whole time and everything. I forgave it that it was always just in his head. This is a guy dying. Spoiler alert, who, from a movie from 1990, that this is his last moments before he dies, where he can't accept that he's dying, right? And so this is him accepting his death in his last moments of dying, actually on the
Yeah.
table. Is still in Vietnam after he got stabbed in the chest. You know what I mean? But for me, my experience with it, I was 17 at the time, so definitely not sophisticated, and even less sophisticated now, for that matter. But this movie scared the shit out of me, and I didn't know
Yeah.
what it was when we first saw it, because this was the glory days of film where a preview told you nothing. The original preview was the part in the tunnel with the light shaking and stuff,
Mhm.
and him
Oh.
like that was it,
Mhm.
man. And a couple of heads shaking around or something. You got nothing from, and it was like, oh shit, what the hell is this? And we went saw in the theater. You went and saw with us, right, Doug? I think we
No,
went
I
to
was in the
Nile.
army.
Doug was in the army.
He
Doug was
in
living
Vietnam.
Jacob's
Oh,
ladder.
damn.
He
Yeah,
was
he was-
literally
In
Jacob's
1990.
ladder.
He was
Actually,
was getting-
it was funny as this was one of the films my command said you're not allowed to watch
Really?
Wow.
because it had a negative impact on the government and the army.
That's
Well,
really
it-
interesting.
And so
That
I
is-
actually didn't see it until like 93 or 94.
And with all the experimentation that the government has done on people, it's they didn't need another movie pointing it out.
Sure.
But so when I first saw it, this movie scared the living dog shit out of me. I mean, that part where he's avoiding the train and then he falls down, and then you see that guy in the rear window going like that. I mean, it just scared the fucking shit out of me.
Oh yeah, it
Just
still
scared the
made
shit
me
out of me.
feel uneasy.
Yeah.
I watched it last night and
Yeah.
I was like, man, it's nighttime.
Because
Oh,
exactly,
no.
I didn't know nothing going into the movie, and I didn't know nothing or anything. While watching it, I didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean? It's like, is he dead? Is he not dead? It made you ask this question the whole time you're watching the movie, which is what I thought was cool about it. It's flashing. Now I watch it now, and it's very obvious, right? It's
Yeah.
flashing back to Vietnam. It keeps coming back to him being stabbed, and then him being rescued while he was stabbed, and then back to this alternate lifestyle in his head, and also with Jezebel and all this crap, and all the crazy shit that happens. But I didn't know until the end when he died, and they put the sheet over him that that's what was going on. And Gabe, he went up with Gabe to heaven.
Yeah.
And I remember being super fucking pissed off that
Really?
that's what it was. And I was like, fuck this movie. I hate this movie because it scared the shit out of me. And then the whole time it was him just dying. It was all a dream. It was one of those.
And it turns out
felt cheap.
the consequences weren't real.
Yeah, and
or
it just
anything.
felt very cheap of a very
Yeah.
cheap ending. But I gave it a few years, came back to it, and I realized for me, it's the movie's true brilliance. But like I said, you guys, you come into it, and like Dana, like I said, you noticed right away, because you're sophisticated movie watcher at this point. You guys all are. So this stuff is not gonna impact you the same way.
Well, I do
know.
want to say though that
Either that or I'm just a dumbass. Go ahead.
I do want to say that
Me and
there
Doug.
are a lot of things that
How dare you,
feel-
Doug?
There are a lot of things that feel cheap when it turns out that it was all a dream or all wasn't real or whatever. But I do think that in this particular movie, because of the content that like they're pursuing, which is, it's not just acceptance of death. It's really like it's a really spiritual movie with a lot of like biblical metaphors and like a forsaking of your earthly ties so that you can ascend and like to heaven or whatever. I mean, they're all obviously very Christian themes outside of the context of the movie, even though in the movie it doesn't really necessarily feel like the dude is a particularly devout Christian or anything like that. But like because it's all about like learning how to accept like the spiritual inevitability of like leaving this realm, and like the whole conversation about like if you're
Jesus.
if you're not able to if you're not able to release those bonds and like forsake your mortal coil, then the things that are supposed to be like giving you freedom and like letting your soul like transition to the next plane of existence are the things that feel like hell on earth, because like it's literally your fault. Like it's all on you. And because it's such a deeply personal journey for the main character, going through all of this stuff, experiencing all this like horrific imagery and hardship, entangled with all of like the hedonistic pleasures of living in New York and all that shit and being with Jezebel, like because like all of that is really just a reflection of this dude's character as he's dying. I think that this is one of the few examples where it's all a dream is actually like very beneficial towards the plot. It's not cheap because it is his experience, and that experience was really important to him as a character to allow himself to die. So I thought that there are ways for it to feel cheap, but in this particular movie, with these particular themes, with this particular plot, it actually doesn't feel unfair and actually kind of tethers the movie to something that is real, and probably does a lot better of a job than Mr. Nobody, which never tethered itself. That like it actually is very much in the movie's favor that they decided to create like an ending that was like, yeah, there is abject reality where people are existing. He's not in it for the entire movie, but it is there. It's real.
Yeah.
You
No.
know
I
what?
was just saying it felt cheap because it scared the shit out of me. It drug me through the mud emotionally. It
Yeah.
terrified me. It made me ask all these philosophical questions about life and death throughout the entire movie. I mean, it was a deeply emotional experience for me. So when it was just this man dying on a table, it felt cheap at the time.
Yeah.
But it was only because I was so mad that it would scared me so much, and like I said, I had this emotional experience in it. But then, like I said, when I left it alone for a while and came back to it, I realized what a beautiful, honestly, a beautiful film it really is. And it's this this man accepting his death and not wanting to initially, right?
Yeah.
which is why he's, you know, and Danny Aiello's character even says it. Louis even says it, that the what you think are demons are actually angels.
Right.
You know, calling you home or whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing the line, obviously, but
Yeah.
and that's really what the movie's all about. It's the acceptance of death, and once you do, then everything is wonderful and beautiful, and you follow Macaulay Culkin up into a staircase of light.
And you get hit
But-
by a paint can
Yeah.
because you're breaking into his house.
But
So
they throw all this shit at you really quick. They throw all this shit at you. You got the death of Gabe. You got this subplot of them wanting to sue the government. You got this doctor that later on gives him this exposition about the drug they were giving him, and was any of that even true? You know what I mean? It doesn't appear to be. You know, it was just a guy got stabbed in Vietnam, and these were his last moments.
Yeah.
But you know, I you know,
I do think
I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I watch it. It's one of my ones I watch at least once a year.
On that specific point, it kind of leaves it vague. They could have been experimented on. They could have actually
Could have.
attacked each other.
The only thing is that you notice that some of the guys, the guy he meets up with that invented the ladder,
Mhm.
talks about how the ladder is supposed to make them more aggressive, and yet you notice him as one of the few who, I mean, he's
He's
his
not
character.
aggressive.
He's not aggressive.
Yeah.
He doesn't know
Not at
what's
all.
going on. You see Ving Rhames' character freaking out. You see the one guy that he first initially makes contact with him. I forget the character's name, who's just sitting on the ground. I mean, just
And crying. I think that's Pruitt, if I remember correctly.
and some of these other guys. And then there's even the guy who later on never admits that anything happened at all. And so to me, each one of these, his time with Jezebel, his time with his family, and the drug itself, is him struggling with the his life, or what he wanted his life to be, as he's dying, and the government experimenting on him with drugs is a good way to pass the responsibility to somebody else. It's a natural reaction. And I think that's just
Well, yeah.
him saying, well, it's not my fault that I'm here. It's this drug's fault, or the government's fault, or something like that. And I mean, if you watch, I mean, as we go through the movie, you find that the drug that they're talking about, the ladder, is just a red herring anyway. Doesn't show up as anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it certainly doesn't change. Now it could have caused the other soldier to stab him, so it's certainly important there, but it doesn't seem to affect him.
Mhm.
You know, because all the demons he's seeing are, as Louis says, his unwillingness to let go of his life and die.
Right.
And so those demons aren't like hallucinations from a drug or anything else. And again, same thing with his life with Jezebel, his life with his family, everything except the parts in Vietnam are all figments of his imagination, basically parts of his brain as he's dying, trying to deal with it. And at first, you know, going through those stages of what do you call it, grief, where you have denial, you have anger, and then you have acceptance. And you see all that through parts of this film. And like I said, I think that the drug is just him. There may be, like I said, there may be some of his friends may have been exposed to it, but there's no evidence that he was exposed to it.
I think everything
It's
in the
very
movie is
little.
a red herring. Right?
Indeed.
Everything he's experienced in the movie is a red herring.
It is
Except-
weird
yeah,
that they
except him
have
being
the
dead.
ending card.
Yeah,
The
of
only
course.
thing that stands out is that ending card that talks about the drug.
Oh,
BZ,
BZ, right.
Yeah.
which they're like the better. So I think the inspiration of the movie probably came from the concept of BZ, which they called ladder in the movie. But whether or not the main character actually was dosed, I think is, like you were saying, not particularly relevant to the experience that he has, and
Right.
if nothing else, just serves as a way for him to kind of like, I like that, places blame on something like external factors.
Yeah.
And as a viewer, you also get to explore an alternate explanation for why this stuff's happening too.
Yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
when it comes up as the audience, we want it to be that to be the reason.
I
that's
did.
and that's
Yeah.
When I
kind
saw it,
of
yeah.
that's kind of why when we find out the truth, that's what makes it that much more powerful, is because we're looking at his friends and they're getting together and they're trying to sue the government for a while, and they think it's this drug called the ladder and all this stuff, and we're like, yeah, that sounds like, because we're
Totally, I
rooting,
was in.
we're rooting for
Yeah.
Jacob
At that point.
Singer.
It's starting to make sense. This is starting to make sense now. And then
Yeah.
the guys just totally
and
drop
you're
it all.
you're going with it because here's this guy Jacob Singer, and you feel bad for him. He's our guy.
Right.
We're following him throughout this whole film, and we jump on to the idea of this drug called the ladder, going, yeah, that's it, that's what happened.
Because
And
what we're going through, what we're experiencing with him is so horrible and terrifying. We
Mhm.
want
and this
Logical
puts a little
explanation.
Yeah.
science on it. This puts a little
Totally.
logic into it. This puts a little reality into it. Okay, he's seeing these things because of this drug they gave him.
Mhm.
And again, in a real world, in every one of our lives, it makes a lot of sense. But it also kind of pulls you away far enough, and when we do find out what's really going on, that's more of a shock, B, more powerful to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Brett, you've seen this before. How long ago did you see it?
I've probably only seen it twice, and I first saw it, I'm guessing, when I was like 12 or 13, pretty early.
Oh, wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
So this was honestly one of
Yikes.
the, going back to your points, where I don't remember feeling terrified, but I imagine I was. But it's probably one of the first movies that dealt with all these complexities of death, had representations of demons posing as humans, and dealing with conspiracies with government testing, things like that. So it throws a lot at you.
Yeah.
And so I've seen this twice before, and I felt like even the first time I saw it, it was like I didn't know how the movie was going to end as I was watching it. It was definitely a shock to me the first time, but all the points like Doug is talking about hits very well with my feelings of the movie. It was like it's very much throwing these different red herrings at you as different ways of this person processing his oncoming death in his last moments. But I still do feel like I get more out of it as I've seen it now. It's probably been, I don't know, 15, 20 years since I last saw it.
And this movie is a perfect example of like we were talking about with Mr. Nobody, of a fever dream. I think this is
Mhm.
the perfect
Mhm.
example of a fever dream type
Yeah.
movie. I think it nails that. The special effects too were all in camera.
The
Yeah.
special effects were
Nothing was
fantastic.
done in post. It was
Great-
all in camera.
Great effects.
Yeah.
Great
Amazing.
angles.
All
That
very,
subway
all very
scene.
subtle, but all very right there.
It's
Yeah.
beautifully shot. I don't know what film stock they used. I tried to Google it, couldn't find out. But Adrian Lin, all his movies look like this, and so he had a different director of photography. From some of his other films. So I was like thinking maybe as the director of photography is why it looks this way. Because when you see an Adrian Lin film, it's very obviously an Adrian Lin film. Because he did Flashdance, he did 9.5 Weeks, he did this. Top of my head, I can't remember what else he did, but these are
Fatal Attraction was the
Fatal
big one.
Attraction. They have this look and feel to them, and so does Jacob's Ladder. And I thought, like I said, I thought it was maybe his director of photography was doing it, but it's definitely him. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's interesting that it has, even this is a horror film, I guess.
Yeah.
Psychological horror, yeah.
Psychological horror. It has
builds
the
itself
Adrian
that
Lin
way, yeah.
feel to it. It feels like a horror version of 9.5 Weeks in a sense.
Yeah.
'Cause when you watch 9.5 Weeks, it's very different films, obviously, but they use it. Sure as fuck looks like they use the same film stock. But I love how this movie looks too. It's
Because
beautifully shot.
that feeling that I get is like when I'm watching his movies, that it's a familiar world, but it's not mine.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about it
Right.
though. It's like when you see a Spielberg film, you're like, oh, this is a Spielberg film. You know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
tell even though he's had different directors of photography, you can tell a Spielberg from that. That's the sign of a
Yeah.
very influential and powerful director when, regardless of who's shooting it for him, you can still tell it's their movie. Cameron's another one, prime example of someone who
J.J.
like
Abrams.
Yep.
Abrams. Yeah,
Abrams.
well, he always has the same DPs though.
Abrams
really- okay.
follows Spielberg in a lot of his
I was
movies.
gonna say, you see an
Yeah.
Abrams film.
Well,
you
that's
see
a whole nother.
Spielberg
That's a whole
film.
nother. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
Actually,
podcast.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask you if some of the biblical imagery. I mean, even the name of the movie, Jacob's Ladder, that's a Bible story
Oh yeah.
about a guy that ascends to heaven and ultimately becomes Israel, right? Like there's like a whole thing with.
I
with
believe so. I'd have to go back. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
not
thought it was really
super familiar
interesting
with it.
because I only have like a passing knowledge of these things, but yeah, Jacob's Ladder is the thing, and he like there's like he wrestles with God, I think, and then he doesn't know that he's wrestling with God, but he's also wronged his brother in the past, and his brother's coming to kill him. Then he's like, God's like, well, you've toiled with me, so I'm gonna change your name to Israel, and also you're cool with your brother now, and then he goes away. It's like I
There you
think
go.
that's
Huh.
about.
I don't think
how
any of that's in this story, but yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
ultimately Jacob's Ladder in the Bible is just an allegory of like, gaining access to the kingdom of heaven through God, which is also what this movie feels like it's about, even though it's not particularly like.
Yeah, it's
Kingdom
funny.
Master.
They don't really say that out. They don't really say that part out loud. It's one of those things that you're left to kind of come to that conclusion for yourself. It's
Mhm.
like that's. But
I
you
think
know,
it's clearly based on Judeo-Christian beliefs, though.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
Of
it
heaven
is.
and hell.
yeah,
You know?
It's,
And-
it's,
and
it
even-
definitely goes back to
and
that
even
quote
purgatory.
from Luis, where it was
Yeah.
him having to accept death
Yeah.
to stop feeling like it's demons attacking him, but it's actually angels freeing his soul.
Mhm.
And that's what we were talking about just 10 minutes before. That's that whole movie.
Well,
gotta be an
the
easy-
right.
Gotta
And
be an
it-
easier way. There's got to be an
foreshadowing-
easier way.
the
That's all I can say, there's
foreshadowing
gotta be
and
an
the
easier way.
naming conventions of the people is
This is a very
like,
terrifying way. That's not how I want to go. Just let me know so I can walk up the stairs with Macaulay Culkin. Don't put me on.
But
You have to
it
do it
is
on your
funny.
own.
If
You
you
have to
take
do it on your
that
own.
literally, if you're afraid of death and demons are attacking you in this fever dream, how's that going to make you accept death any
It-
quicker?
Well, I don't think that it's supposed
Well,
to.
it's not.
so-
it's a
It's
trial.
it's a byproduct of you not letting go of all these things of
Yeah.
your family, of your life, of your
Oh,
world. If you are accepting of it and
Yeah.
you say, okay, I've done what I can and I'm at peace,
Yeah.
it does look very wonderful. It looks great and everything like that and that's the point of the whole movie, is the fact that he's not accepting.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm
I think
just saying
Ben
there's
hit it
got to
on
be an
the
easier way.
head.
This movie made me afraid of chiropractors. Getting
the
needles in my
chiropractors-
forehead.
He heals on it.
Chiropractor is the
Yeah.
angel and the savior.
Yeah,
I know,
chiropractor's
he's
God.
that guy.
Not at first. He
Right.
twists
Well,
his
it
head
doesn't seem that way at first.
and
Right.
sends him back to Vietnam. It made me afraid of having needles put in the front of my head. It made me afraid of going to insane asylums with body parts. I don't want to do that ever again.
Yeah,
No,
that was.
It
um,
made me afraid of getting stabbed in Vietnam. I don't know if I was
Maybe
ever
afraid,
afraid of that
maybe
before,
afraid
but-
of 70s parties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will be
Yeah.
very, very
Dude,
cautious.
That
of
was creepy.
Listen, I'm saying that's your girlfriend dancing with homeboy and having a horn come out of her mouth and dance with Satan.
Yeah.
That's cheating. I'm telling you right now. That's
That-
cheating.
you know what? That is qualifies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about that stuff though, because the foreshadowing, if you know where the names are coming from, and then like recognize where
All the
movie was
biblical names.
trending.
Yeah.
Right.
Jezebel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
Jezebel's the big one.
Jezebel is
Eli.
she's basically like a succubus in the Bible. She's
Mhm.
she's leading
Yeah.
people astray. I think at some point they throw her in jail, and then they're like, if you so much as lay with her, then you're forsaking the kingdom of heaven.
And notice that she hates the name.
Yeah.
She hates the
she
name
hates it.
Jezebel. She hates being called it.
Right.
She thinks the.
And she also
she
hates
hates
his sons' names.
Yeah.
Eli
Yes,
and
she hates all the
Abe
biblical
and-
names.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool because in the beginning of the movie, you start with, well, not the very beginning, but when you get introduced to Jezebel and then the chiropractor, it's like Jezebel is this like force of good in his life, and they have a pretty solid relationship. Like you can tell that she's maybe carrying a little bit of insecurities with her, but at no point was I like, this is a horribly toxic relationship.
No,
She's
she
even-
seems like she really loves him and cares about him. And
Mhm.
And even further on down the line at the party, she's like super chill with him, like, getting his palm read by the lady on the staircase.
well, why
She's not-
shouldn't she's out banging Hector on the dance floor?
Yeah, she
But
got no
my-
standards.
But my point is that she seems like a nice worldly attachment, and then the chiropractor at the beginning seems this like kind of frightening and
Yeah.
you know like scary, like you talked about earlier. And then there's a swap, like a flip that happens at some point where it's like actually Jezebel is definitely like not a good thing
Well,
for him and the chiropractor.
Right.
And it
Well, the
kind of
first sign of that
Yeah.
is him looking at pictures of his family and his son and
Mhm.
Jezebel
Immediately trying
angrily
to
saying,
toss
"I don't
them.
like things that make you cry."
Mhm.
And she throws him in the
burns him.
fire.
Burns him.
Or puts him in the
Throws him
incinerator.
fire.
Yeah, that is some cold-blooded shit. But I that comes off as this early in the film. It comes off as jealousy. Actually,
Yeah.
really quick, I want to talk about the party scenes too. Really quick about that whole thing where he's talking to the palm reader and she's off dancing. It makes it feel like a very secure relationship, which is cool.
Yeah, it
honestly,
does.
and you're sitting there going, okay, well they're obviously very established. It's a very established relationship. It's a very secure relationship. They obviously trust each other,
It was the
which is nice to
70s,
see.
So
Mhm.
It was the 70s and everybody was fucking everybody else. Well, everybody's fucking everybody now. So not much changed. But was that the 70s?
This is COVID.
it's supposed
Yeah,
to
we
be
said- yeah,
supposed to be
yeah,
like
yeah.
19. The
everyone was
latest
fucking
is
everyone.
supposed to be like 1975.
Am I not
Yeah,
part
that's
of
right.
everybody? I feel like we're getting left. But what are you talking about? Who's fucking what?
We're not allowed to fuck everybody.
Everyone but us on the podcast is
Because
fucking-
we're
Present
here right
company
now.
accepted.
Yeah.
So I got
Because
this
we're
giant-ass
here
bottle of
Tuesday
wine.
night talking about a movie from the 19th.
Dude, exactly.
God.
Ladies,
So this friend of mine, his big joke is like, he's like, I never saw Star Wars, Daryl. And I'll be like, okay, why? He's like, because I was getting laid. That's always his move. Right. He's never seen all these movies. He's not a movie guy. He's like, why would I be a movie guy? I was getting laid. You know, it's always been his big
That
joke.
is
So when I
unfair.
start talking about movies, you know him, you love him,
is it?
Master Blaster. No, it's fake Uncle Dave.
There you
I was
go.
gonna go with-
That was
I mean,
a
he's
line
not
from-
wrong. He was
not
getting
wrong,
laid,
yeah.
So it's kind of hard to be mad
You
at
can
him.
kill
when he's
two
just being
birds
so
with one
correct.
stone. It's called Netflix and chill for a reason, man.
That's
It could be
true.
two things.
Throw on Jacob's ladder, start
Ooh.
seducing
No
your
excuse
lady.
for,
Yeah.
for no Star
Ooh.
Wars. Yeah,
This is a
Jacob's
seduction
Ladder.
That
movie.
dance party seems pretty spicy.
If any of you can seduce a lady with this movie, you guys are extremely charming.
I dress up
Beyond
as
charming.
Satan with horns all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, honestly, like it's pretty easy. You just got to get yourself like a goth girlfriend, and she'll be all.
Oh yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
It is pretty easy.
Our big titty goth girlfriend. Anyways, that's on Reddit.
Wow.
If you're interested, it's pretty
How
nice.
do you know
but,
about that?
I am
That's
a
like-
redditor. That's why.
He's a redditor.
Yeah, that's not showing up on the front page of Reddit, Daryl. You're fucking getting deep into the weeds with that one.
Ooh.
It just
Deep
it
into
rolled
the
up in my
weeds.
feed, bro. What can I tell you?
Oh my bad, I didn't know. It's just, oh, I keep clicking. Oh no.
It rolled up my feed. Big titty goth girlfriend. If you're interested. Anyways,
This is subreddit.
this is amazing
Yeah,
subreddit.
it's just
Uh,
He's got no clue.
Oh,
There's
is
some
it a
dummy thick people
subreddit?
on there.
No.
It's a
Yeah.
pornographic subreddit.
there might be some ladies of the
Don't
evening.
go
in it.
Didn't
looking
either
it up.
confirm or
Yeah.
deny the
Yeah,
existence.
that's-
of-
Listen, Ben, it rolled up in my feed, dog. Algorithms, dude.
And
You can't
So,
blame.
anyways, moving on.
I got to
the
figure
science.
out how to get onto that algorithm.
Can't blame the science. Okay.
You can't blame science
Mhm.
But
and algorithms. It's math, Ben.
jeez, my bad. But I did. So actually, you just connected the dots for me for the thing where she hucks all the photographs, the memories, the physical embodiments of worldly attachments into the
Yeah.
fire. And then later
Yeah.
on, he talks about how like my attachments, my loves are all being burned alive, and it feels horrible. Like what's happening? And he's like, well, yeah. I mean, because like you're fucking dying, dude. Like you got to get out of here.
Right.
You can't just hang out here, or else you're gonna burn with everything else.
Yeah,
This
because
is
That is the Judeo-Christian perspective, right? That the things of the world that make you feel most comfortable are the things that could probably kill you the most. That's the idea.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, it's the anti
Like a succubus.
thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's what they do.
I
if
think
we're
this
going
movie,
back to that quote, it says the only thing that burns in hell is part of you that won't let go of life, your memories, your attachments. They
Yeah.
burn them all away.
Mm.
right. So that you
Pretty
can
cool.
free your soul and
That's pretty
get out
badass.
of there and climb
this
the
is like a-
staircase with Gabe.
a credit to the editor, most likely, I guess, and just everyone who made the movie. But the movie weaves in and out of this narrative beautifully, I think, right? Because you go from one thing to the next, and it all makes sense. So like from the party, and then he freaks out, and then that's him going into the fever of this fever dream. You know what I mean? Where they put his ass in the bathtub because he has such a high fever. Which is another, I think, a great scene. And then there's that weird where they break the fever or whatever, and just sitting there looking up at the camera in the bathtub, and it's all still and everything. Um, or before that too, when he goes to the doctor's office, I want to speak to Dr. Carlson.
Yeah.
And that woman, I hate that woman so much, but just because she's some old bat. And then when she leans down and she get that weird knot on her head, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, God.
Yeah.
And she knows nothing of him. There's no file on him, nothing of Dr. Carlson. Yet he goes to Dr. Carlson's office, again, all red herrings, like Doug was saying. And the guy in Dr. Carlson's office knows who he was because he died a month ago in a car crash. And you're sitting going like, well, how did she not know? And how does he not have a file if this guy died a month? It's again, all these red herrings. You know what I mean? To make you ask these questions, what the hell's going on? Whereas some of you bastards already knew, apparently.
That
So-
was
And it's
another
sorta
one of the
just-
things where I was just like, yeah, he's dead. I was just like,
Well,
Yeah.
it sort of displaces you from reality, kind of like Ben was saying earlier, because there are these things that make it seem like this is the real world that you should be connected to, or what I forget what you said before exactly, but
You
there are
right,
these
Dayton?
tether
Yeah.
got-
it's
these
tether.
things
okay,
that
I
are
got my
supposed to
wine
tether
clock.
you. But then weird shit like that keeps happening where people are acting in very strange ways and things aren't making sense that kind of keep you guessing a little bit. I like that about the movie. It's subtle. It's not coming right out and saying this whole thing, you could figure it out. That's true. But I think the movie does a really good job of towing the line because sometimes he has perfectly normal interactions.
Like all the interactions with Jason Alexander's character, the lawyer, or whoever,
Yeah.
all that felt grounded in reality. Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, they're gonna try and figure this out as a group, and then
Yeah.
it goes way back into the other side of
Right, and then they'll throw
unreal
curveballs at you.
kind of psychosis.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
then, and then you think he's being gaslit because he
Mhm.
goes and he has the conversation with Jason Alexander, and Jason Alexander's like, "You're not even real, man. Like you didn't even go to Vietnam. You fucking got discharged because you're a
Yeah.
crazy person in Thailand." He's like, "I was totally in Vietnam," and then he leaves the lawyer place after having altercation, and he immediately gets picked up by some suits from the government, and you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh shit, yeah, dude, he totally was about to bust the whole thing wide open, and then
Yeah.
I got him." And then, 15 minutes later, there's the scene where he's sitting in his room and he opens his shoebox and he pulls out his honorable discharge and all his pictures from Vietnam. And you're like, well, he has physical evidence that he was in Vietnam.
Right.
Like,
Clearly he was there.
yeah. And so it's like, is he being gaslit? Is he not? Is he in Vietnam right now? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, again, all that we know this. I'm saying what we already know, which was all this was created for the movie to try to throw you off the scent of the real thing, which is that he's already dead, or he's dying rather.
Right.
These are his last moments of dying back in Vietnam in 1971.
But Doug hit on something important, and I think that this is what kind of helps not cheapen a lot of these feelings, is that even though they serve the purpose of throwing you off the scent on like a first watch when you don't know what the twist at the end is going to be, they still also have important meaning in terms of the character's journey in coming to terms with death and like leaving the realm of the mortals or whatever you want to call it. And so like because it has an actual deeper meaning and it serves like a very like a narrative entertainment purpose, I think that kind of like really strengthens those moments in the movie, as opposed to like some thrillers where you're like, now that I'm watching this movie the second time, it seems pretty dumb that they did that. You know what I mean? Which
that's
Sixth
a good
Sense.
point.
Yes,
That's a good point.
I have that feeling with Sixth Sense, but I was gonna say the same thing right before you. Is like, I don't feel like me knowing the end cheapens the story for me. It doesn't lessen my experience with it. It probably helps with the story in some ways. So that rewatching it, I'm like, oh, now you understand the deeper meaning of all these trials he's going through.
And I don't
whereas
think
Sixth Sense is like, oh, okay, yeah, I see, and they probably could have edited this differently to make it, more consistent more rewatches.
That's a good point. Because this movie is, even when you know exactly what the twist is, everything still seems to serve a purpose, and it's, to me, it was no less enjoyable, despite all that. Whereas,
I didn't know
it's
that.
not a good
I didn't know
storytelling.
the twist in the Sixth Sense either. In fact, I had to sleep with the lights on after that movie. So I'm afraid of
That's
ghosts.
still a scary movie.
Yeah.
Sixth
My,
Sense is
my
scary.
Still good
the
scary
biggest
movie.
twist of the Sixth Sense is that Donnie Wahlberg is in the very
Yeah,
beginning,
right?
That's
In his underwear. And you
the
don't
biggest
know
one.
that's him.
He was fantastic in that. It was amazing.
Great. He was
Yeah.
great in
Donnie
that. I never knew that
Wahlberg
was
is a
Donnie
great
Wahlberg.
actor.
He kind of, I mean,
I like
because of
him.
that movie, I don't know about anything else for sure, but yeah, I never knew that was Donnie Wahlberg. I'm like, that's a Backstreet Kid. What was he in? Backstreet?
New Kids on the
He-
Block.
So
New
Kids on
he
the
was
Block.
also in weird form and makeup for that Stephen King adaptation of Dreamcatcher. That movie where he was the
Oh, you're
alien.
right.
And that was another case of like those two movies around the same time, and he's just acting the shit out of it. It's
Mhm.
great.
He was definitely great as that underwear bathroom kid for sure.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Knocked it out of the park.
I think that's what it says in the credits.
Is
underwear
that
bathroom
how
kid.
he's credited as the underwear?
Yeah, as
Yeah.
underwear bathroom kid. But I mean, like
It's
I know like I think Doug was one who figured out very quickly in Sixth Sense that he was a ghost the whole time. I never fucking knew. Sorry, spoiler alert, people.
Yeah,
I
had
did
no
not
idea.
know. So when it, I'm in I watched it in the theater too, and I'm totally fucking entrenched, whatever you want to call it in the movie, engrossed. I had no idea when it all happened and shit. I was like, and then I realized that he was a ghost the whole time. I was like, oh my god, it really blew me the fuck away. And then when you're right though, when you go back and watch it again though, there's a lot of shit that was just visually cool, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like what I know it's a
Those
really
dinner
cool scene.
scenes between him and his wife is like, okay, would this have happened? I don't know.
And also like when the mom is running around in the dryer, and it's a cool scene, but then she comes back in and all the fucking cabinets are open again. Well, that never happened. Nothing like that happens in the whole rest of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
The implications that a ghost did this, but why?
Yeah.
Because why would a ghost do that? Once we get to know these other ghosts in the film and that they're looking for, what do you call it when you get your needs met or something? I don't know. These ghosts are need to be rescued from this shit. I can't think of the
Oh,
right
yeah.
term.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? They'll have a and once he helps them out, they're able to move on. So what was the cabinet ghost? Like it needed to open all these cabinets, and he's like, oh
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
he
close
opened
it.
all the cabinets and then that was it. He was like,
You know,
That's his thing. He just wanted to open up some more cabinets,
and then he's
move
done,
on.
and then he can go to heaven.
Yeah.
He
That's
has
what
a
these
quota.
ghosts need, right? Is they need their story closed or whatever, whatever's
there's
holding
like
them to the earth.
I mean, there's always been a very tight line between horrifying and hilarious, right? Like with I like to watch like videos of real ghosts on like YouTube or TikTok or whatever.
Don't put those
And-
air quotes down.
Well, I mean, there's some of them where it's
real.
like, whoa, that would be really freaky. But then
Real
also,
ghosts.
like, imagine being a fucking demon and just like, because there's one in particular I saw just the other day where it's like a big shadow that was like laying on a bed, and the guy like walks in, he sees the shadow, he's like, oh god, and but then it's like, yeah, but like, what was that demon doing? Just like fucking, like
Demon shit.
Yeah. Did you
Demon
imagine,
shit, bro.
hanging
don't know.
out, like.
Can you imagine dying and then coming back as an orb?
You're
You're
not
like,
a demon.
the fuck am I supposed
I
to do
mean,
with
there-
this? Just
Oh.
float around.
There are just
Demon's
some
gonna
hilarious
demon.
ideas. Yeah, or like hucking a phone across
demon.
the room. It's like that's scary to us because phones aren't supposed to fly across the room. But as a ghost,
Speak
like
for
having
yourself.
like the desire just be like, ah! It's like,
Yeah, if the
that's
ghost
so
was
stupid.
if the ghost was dummy thick, now I'm in.
I'm trying to haunt this family, but I keep
Yeah.
alerting them.
What,
with my
what was the full name?
ass.
Dummy
A
Thick
giant ass.
Steamboat?
Yeah.
Something?
dummy thick.
Dummy
smoke-
dumb-
thick
dummy
steam
thick-
book?
Dummy thick
Smoke boat.
Yeah.
Smoke
Yeah,
boat.
dummy
thick
There's no
smoke boat.
steam involved at all.
It's
That's
all
where we got
smoke, baby.
steamboat from.
It's a steam powered smoke boat, is what it
Yeah.
is.
but honestly, it's interesting comparing those two movies, Sixth Sense and Jacob's Ladder,
Oh, yeah.
and seeing that the experience of someone trying to pass on to the next life or heaven or anything. For Jacob's Ladder, it's his final moments of his life. Whereas Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
you're a ghost and then you're fucking with people.
You're just a dick.
You're
Right?
just an asshole.
Yeah,
Like
I
those-
kind of prefer the Jacob's Ladder approach. It's like your final. It's not your final moments. It's not your life flashing before your eyes,
It's
but
Right.
it's you processing everything that you've lived and
Yeah.
figuring out how to let go.
Have you guys ever heard about this or read about? I remember learning about this a long time ago, but there's a theory that because of the way that time dilation works, which is just like if you're in a frightening or really emergency situation, adrenaline starts pumping through your veins, and then your reactions become much quicker. And it's called time dilation, but it just feels like time is passing more slowly because your neurons are just like really going at it. And so you're like, whoa, I can like do things more accurately, more dexterous than
Like
I
being in the
typically can.
Matrix.
So
Or they're on acid.
Yeah.
or being on drugs or whatever. But the thing is, that time dilation doesn't have any known upper or lower limit. And so what people have theorized is that when you die or as you are dying, because we know that when people are dying, the brain just shits out all of its endorphins and everything, basically, like DMT that you usually only experience when you're dreaming, also gets flushed into the brain and the conscious mind and all this stuff. That basically there's a theory that time could dilate so like to such a slow extent, and you could be tripping so hard, like just not understanding what's happening so badly, that it could feel like you're living lifetimes as you're dying. And so like the afterlife or the eternal life is basically just like a logarithmic scale of like your time is dilated to the point where you actually never even reach what everybody else reaches, which is where you actually die, because your brain has flushed all these endorphins into your body. And so now like time has slowed down to such an extent that basically it feels like eternal life, even though there is actually a hard cutoff at some point for everybody else's perspective. It's like a weird thing with like, fucking physical mechanics of like the speed of light and everything else, because of how perspective is for the observer versus the experiencer and all that shit. But I think it's really interesting because Jacob's Ladder seems to have taken a lot of influence from that concept, since he's clearly living a lot.
That sounds
more...
exactly like Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this movie.
He is one dilated motherfucker in this movie. For sure.
Well, yeah, his time is definitely dilated the fuck off, because like, he's dying.
Yeah.
And he's experiencing a lot more than you think that you should be able to in the time that it takes to, die in the jungle in Vietnam or whatever.
I've definitely had normal dreams, not fever dreams, that felt like a whole lifetime, eternity.
Yeah.
But wouldn't this theory have been not the two words went through my mind that were incorrect. One was discombobulated, and the second one was
saying
discontinued. Debunked is the correct one.
Why would it be debunked?
Because what about people that have actually their heart has stopped and they've been brought back?
Well,
so clinically
conversations have actually been. So people think that actually is in support of the dream, because a lot of the near-death experiences where like, you hear the stories of the hand pushing you back like from the gates of heaven, or even people have had like conversations with Jesus Christ and, or whatever. Like all of these things theoretically could also just be a severe hallucination as your body thinks you're dying, and these endorphins are being like flushed into your system. And so like a part of accepting death is your body like flushing every chemical it has out, and then you experience.
Speaking of flushing, I'll be right back.
And then like if you don't actually die, then it's like, well, now how do I fucking process all of the shit that I just saw?
That's a good question.
So
because you just experienced so much.
Right. I mean, it's just like your brain has a lot of shit in it.
What is that?
But that's
now. Yeah.
Also, just the nerdy part of me is immediately wondering, what's the upper limit of brain processing data, whatever. It's just like throwing every memory you've ever had and every possible experience you could have at you and feeling like you've experienced it. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the weird thing about time dilation, is that we don't actually know that there is an upper or lower limit to how quickly or slowly something passes to the observer.
So you are currently dying.
Well, okay, here's
you are right now experiencing a possible life.
Here's a fun thought experiment. So flies they're tiny compared to humans. And as a result, their synapses fire across their entire body, at an order of magnitude slower than human experience is. Mm-hmm. And so if flies have conscious experience, what that would theoretically mean is that they experience the real world, quote unquote, much slower than humans do. And so to us, just a quick killing the fly, to a fly, let's say it's 1-to-1. The length of a fly's lifespan is 1-to-1 with the length of a human's lifespan in terms of how it feels to experience it. That means that really quick smush of the fly, because flies live for a couple days, feels like months to the fly. And so like the fly is just sitting there going like, I didn't move fast enough for like months as it's slowly being crushed to death because, you know, that's, I mean, their synapses.
Because that's to scale with the life of the fly in
Right.
comparison to your life.
So
Yeah,
now
and
are
there's-
you opening up ethical reasons to not kill flies?
I don't
Is
give a
this
shit.
torture?
I'm going to still
It's
smush
not.
flies. My
So
point
I
is just
killed
that we
so
don't.
many flies this week.
It's a fun thought experiment because we don't actually know what a fly's perspective is or whether they have conscious experience at all. We know that they react to stimuli, and that's like as close as we're ever going to get. But because we know that time isn't perceived the same by all observers, even two humans in the same room together seeing the same thing, we really have no idea what a fly's experience is being smushed. It could be horrible. So
Well, I imagine being smushed
yeah.
is horrible.
So if this also affected mosquitoes, can we extend that death for them as much as possible?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's
that's
a good
the
question.
That's
Now we're asking the real questions.
How do we torture insects?
I mean, do mosquitoes
Is what I'm getting
have-
out of this movie.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
do mosquitoes
joining
have
us.
the endorphins to flush into the rest of their body, or like how complex is a mosquito brain? Can it really just like sit there in horror as it's being smushed forever?
What if it
No.
was
Sit
trapped
there
in
in
Amber
horror.
for 64 million
Yes.
years?
Huh?
How long is 64 million years for a mosquito from the Triassic period to now? That's what I
Right.
want to
Mhm.
know.
You guys want to know a funny story about today in flies?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
All right, buckle
So
in.
we've had had a lot of flies this week. I have a fly gun, shoots salt, table salt, like a shotgun,
Oh.
pump action and everything. It looks like a super soaker, but it shoots salt at flies. And
What?
kills them.
I had
and it
no idea
burns
this is a
them
thing.
with the salt. It's called the assault gun.
Of course it is.
I was
Called the
just
assault
talking about
gun,
this the
guys.
other-
Oh,
Alright,
no.
I
I
this is a
must
thing.
have killed one of these flies.
But
right?
doesn't the salt get everywhere?
It's a little bit of table salt. It's you notice it.
Do-
I feel
do
like you would
do
have
go
gotten
run-
this off an infomercial in like the 90s.
Do you run
There
over
are
to the pile of salt and
infomercials
throw it over your
for it.
shoulder really quickly, or
Yeah, I've
you
seen
taint
it.
it?
Well, you can't. It's already on the.
Well, this thing is
I'm
badass.
just cursing my. Yeah. Oh, it's really cool. You can get it, and you know what? Honestly, I've killed so many flies. Like it's really effective. The
Oh, I'm
spread,
googling this now.
Hmm.
God damn it.
is
This is
great. It has
interesting.
pop-up sights on it.
Wow.
It's got a
So many
safety.
different cool kind of.
It's gonna say
Yeah, and it's good
Bug-
for
bug
not
assault.
just flies. I've killed bug assault, and I've killed roaches with it, little baby roaches. Gotta
Oh my
stomp them out
baby
young.
roach.
And Danny, you should at least share a screen for their website,
Uh,
bugassault.com, for the
no.
just the
Bug
5 seconds
assault.
of the first video.
bug assault.
And so what happened was
It's
I
bug
Maybe they'll be our
assault.
sponsor.
yeah I could wouldn't that be great if that was our first sponsor?
Oh, it's got a
Is
camo.
bug assault.
It's
got a
so good.
camo.
There's
It's
a camo
so good.
version.
What? Just in case
Yeah.
the fly sees you coming at it? What the?
All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
share this. All right.
This is worth
So-
sharing for the
Okay.
stream.
Yeah, share it real quick, and then I'll finish
Okay.
my story.
No, keep going. This is okay. So
Oh,
we got
okay.
the Real Tree Camo 3.0. Interesting.
It's only $44.95.
It's n-
if you
my-
buy
this
now.
one
Yeah.
I'm looking at is
For the next
49.
15
Worth
minutes.
every damn penny.
Yeah, but
I'm
are you
telling you, if you have
bringing
a
endorsements
serious,
Oh,
from Jeremy.
If you click on
Yeah.
the main website, you can actually shoot flies.
No, it's
nice.
amazing.
Oh, I
I'm in
didn't
love
know
with
Flies
this.
crawling across. What is this?
I personally get mine from
I have
Bass Pro
terrible aim,
Shop.
apparently.
Oh yeah.
What if I bet if you
No.
kill the fly, you get a coupon?
There's a
You
fly
have
on
to
my
turn
screen.
in the flies.
This is
So
ridiculous.
anyway, I've been killing flies all week. Well, what happened is I have this little hydro flask. I put protein shakes in it and all that. Left it open. Big mistake.
That's ridiculous.
Killed the fly.
Big mistake.
Fly died along with a lot of other flies. And then I fill my hydro flask up with protein powder. And here's the thing: I don't have a blender, so I shake it.
Yeah.
And when you're drinking the protein shake from the shaken, hydro flask, sometimes you get
lumpy.
little chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, little lumps, right?
Oh no! What are those?
Lumpy.
lumps
So
of
I
flies?
think I'm just
Oh.
chewing myself a lump of
Oh.
protein. protein powder.
It was a lump of protein.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lump of something, all right. And I was like, this one's really crunchy. Like, what the
It's
hell?
salty. Ah,
God.
wow.
Oh, yeah. There you
Oh,
go. That's my
no.
fly story for the day.
How was the
Yes.
time dilation as you were chewing that fly?
Yeah.
Were you just like dying?
Slowed down incredibly, I bet.
Yeah,
There was one
actually.
time I was I was like maybe 12, I think, and we went to Auburn, which is in Central California, and we did like a whole tour of stuff up there. But one of the tours that we did was of an apple orchard, and so we were able to press our own apple cider. Lots of bees love hanging around that apple cider press, and they love getting themselves squished in that apple cider press. So there's just fleas, just like, or not fleas, bees, like going all over the place.
Somehow bees is better. I don't know why.
Danon also had fleas at the time. So.
Was I saying fleas the entire time? No, I don't even
No,
know.
you said bees.
I did
You
say
just said bees.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna keep drinking this. And they would get like caught in the thing. They just get ground up, and you know it's a hand crank. And there's just this dude just like he's got like 3 teeth, and he's just cranking away. And then these bees are getting in it. And he's just like, oh, more protein. And I was just like, I am not drinking that. That's disgusting. It was actually pretty good though. It was really
Isn't
good
it
bee-
dangerous
bee
though?
cider.
What if you swallow a stinger
Nah,
or
it's-
Fuck
something?
you. Yeah.
I got stung by a bee. The other day I came home from a ride and I felt something crawling around in my jacket. But I was like, just something crawling around my jacket. And then I felt this fucking pain in my arm. I'm like, what the fuck? And I pulled my jacket off and I shook this bee out. And I was like, you bastard bee. And I've been stung since I was a kid. And I was really like, this doesn't hurt that bad. This is a good thing about getting old is things hurt less. Just letting you know, guys. Because like I was just like, well, that's no big deal.
It doesn't really hurt that bad.
I guess
I remember
not.
getting stung for the first time I was in high school, and I got stung in the pinky, and I was just like, oh,
Yeah. That's not that bad.
okay.
Unless you're allergic, of course. Or
Yeah.
you get stung in your lip. I got stung in my lower lip. Oh my God.
Ooh.
This bee flew in my mouth. I was riding my bicycle, standing up on the pegs, you know, and it flew in my mouth. And as I was spitting it out, it stung my lip. And,
Oh.
and it's been this size ever since, actually. It never,
Slowly never
it
went
never
bee.
shrank.
Damn, it made
Yeah.
your lips dummy thick.
It did. I have dummy thick lips.
And this segues into the next movie with Macaulay Culkin, My Girl.
Oh, my
I-
Speaking of
God,
dummy
I hope
thick
He
not.
lips,
dies again.
yeah. How many times has this bastard got to die?
Ugh.
I
didn't
will
see
say
Dave
that
die
you
in
know
this movie.
Tim Robbins looked very young in this movie, which is strange. He's got that mop of hair.
Yeah.
I wonder how old he was.
Yeah, it was really like he was definitely an older dude, but I just couldn't get like the
Guess he was 28, maybe 27 when filming.
really okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
People looked older back then.
There's
So
all
you're
this
saying he
This
looked
is-
young.
This is probably my favorite movie with him in it, right? Okay, maybe second behind Team America.
Team America.
Oh,
Oh,
Team
Team
America?
America.
I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
this
one of the-
honestly is one
He
of my
talks
favorite
about
movies.
Team America being all corporation-y,
Yeah.
and they make money.
I don't
Really?
know,
You gotta
it's
watch
all-
it again.
Huh.
He's in it.
Yeah,
He's
watch
in it as
He's
a
in it.
puppet.
Okay.
He's not really in it though. They're you know,
Oh,
like-
it's
No.
Tim
Well,
Robbins.
yeah.
Okay,
They're
Tim
making
Robbins
fun
is
of him,
puppet.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Kind of like Matt
Corporation.
Damon.
Oh, Matt
Right.
Damon.
It's all corporation.
Matt Damon.
God.
So anyways, yeah. I still
Jacob
love this
Ladder.
movie. I don't care
So
what y'all
I'll,
say.
I'll say what I didn't like about it then, because
Go ahead.
I want to get into this. So I did feel like I did get kind of cheaped out. Maybe it's because maybe the thing that you were thinking, Dad, when you first saw this. I wanted it to be I was totally in for the government plot and like all this stuff. And I did like Doug's explanation of it, where it's just kind of like a something to blame it on. But
Yeah.
even still, like I don't know, when it started getting close to the end of the movie, and it was all just like, that's exactly what it was. It was just kind of like an explanation for why he's dying. I was just like, I don't know if I buy that. And then
And I think it would have hit differently in
Oh, of course.
30 years
yeah.
ago.
Well, I now that we're talking about this, because I never thought about an alternate ending where what if it was the government Jacob's Ladder thing, and it really was real, it was really real. I wonder how that would have felt.
I don't.
You know,
I don't like
because
it
I
it's a
probably would have liked
rejection.
Yeah, that would have been the point of the film, because the point of the film is asking these questions that we're talking about,
Right.
and his acceptance of death. And if it had been just the latter, then it would have been a horror film.
Mhm.
Right, instead of this psychological horror, which actually makes you ask your own questions about life and death.
But I mean,
which
you
is-
notice
which
that
is-
the guy
it's
telling him
philosophical.
about the ladder is one of the medics
Archangel.
Right.
that's with him
Oh.
in Vietnam.
Yeah.
He
Archangel
also
Mike.
warns
So
him.
it can't.
Yeah.
So the drug can't be the real reason,
okay.
because he's just a normal medic in Vietnam where he was at.
Yeah, we were just saying
That
what
is
it
interesting that the
was.
character's name was Michael.
His
Yeah,
name is
good
Michael.
call.
I mean, that's not
Good
a
call.
mistake. That is
Yeah.
Archangel Michael,
Sure.
Yeah.
who has led the armies against the demons of hell, and he's showing up in this dude's fucking at the
Yeah.
end, basically saying, if you want to come to heaven, you're gonna have to here, I'll give you the tools that you need to
You're gonna have
get
to
into
go
heaven.
through hell.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like
yeah.
there's no mistake. I mean, with all the other biblical shit in this movie, like the Michael one is like the most on the nose. It's like, oh, here comes Michael to save the day.
He does
Right.
warn him. He does warn him about that Ford LTD that tries to run him over in that alley.
Is that
Yeah.
also Michael? I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the one that jumps out. Hey, look out!
Hey,
Yeah.
watch out.
That's
Right.
our first introduction to that character.
So another one of my problems with the movie is that I personally didn't feel like he ever learned anything or moved past anything. And this is something that,
Huh.
like, as soon as I realized that he was dead, I kind of knew where they were gonna go with this, and I was like, okay, let's figure out, what he's gonna learn or get over. It doesn't really seem like he does. He's not a bad person.
Really
know, he's-
quickly,
Okay.
to this point, we talked about this about Boogie Nights also, and if you read the trivia to Boogie Nights, the director, whose name escapes now, talks about this. He's like, I didn't want these characters having a 180-degree shift or anything. They maybe move 1 or 2 degrees, which is more realistic, honestly. Think about movies where this person in 2 hours, let's say it's 2 months or even a couple of years throughout this movie, whatever the duration of the film is, it's pretty rare to have that big of a shift. This is movie stuff, right? You know what I mean? I think this is kind of the same thing. It's more realistic in the fact that he wouldn't have some massive
Which is
shift.
fine. Which is fine. And
You
I'm,
know.
I'm totally fine with that. But the thing
Yeah.
is like he's like, there's never a moment where he like really, really accepts his son's death. Like they don't. It's not really shown. I guess the only time you could really would say that he really got over it is when he sees him at the foot of the steps, and then he
I think
goes
that
up,
is
it,
upstairs
yeah.
with it.
It feels like
but
he finally
there's not a
gets what's going
there's not a
on. Yeah.
progression to him accepting it. It's never a huge point. He definitely like cries over the fact that his son is dead and like thinks about it a lot. It's on his mind a lot, but it's never a point where he's like inhibited from doing something because he can't accept his son's death. Like that's kind of what I was looking for when I was like, okay, I kind of figured the route that they're going with this, and there was never a moment where he's just like, okay, I'm ready to go now, except at the very, very end.
Well, I think that was the point of the film, right?
So
But
this goes back to my feeling with Green Knight. With that very end, seeing like he's not gonna live a very nice life, and he doesn't accept it until there's no other option.
They show that thought process there. In this movie, it's just like all of a sudden. I get it. All of a sudden,
boom.
he's in his
Yeah.
house where Sarah's like even like one thing that did kind of shock me too is when he goes up to the doorman and the doorman's like, "Oh, Doctor, what's his last name?
Dr. Ringer.
Singer.
Dr.
Singer.
Singer. Yeah,
Singer.
Dr.
Singer.
Singer." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. He did. When he's going through that box of like his army memorabilia, he does
Yeah, he was a doctorate.
set
They mentioned it many
aside
times.
a doctorate."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. It would make sense that he has this house, and this other life." And so he goes up and he like stands in the kind of like the entry-ish way, and he calls out Sarah's name. And I was like, okay, now he's like accepting it, and now he's ready to move on. He's getting to that point, but it's like the last 3 to 5 minutes of the movie. Like,
I
there's
think that's
not
the
a
point,
whole
though,
lot
isn't
of. I know, but that's the problem that I had with it. Is there wasn't a whole lot of like. It was just like fear, and running around, fear,
Mhm.
fear,
I
running around.
will-
Okay, I'm ready to go. There was like
Because
no,
but you know what
like,
it is? It's also because it's a horror movie.
I think that
Yeah.
might have been a big
I think
detractor
that's
of this
part of
movie.
it.
I think that
And
was
then-
a big detractor of the movie. It should have been
But-
more.
Because
but
it's
then-
a horror
but
movie,
that-
it
does
has to
that-
be fear all the way up until the very end.
But I
you
think
know?
that was
but
the
does
detractor.
that fit the storyline of a human person that's in the throes of death, like freaking out
Oh, I'm
until the
sure.
final moment? We're like, oh, it's this is happening. I'm gone.
It's over.
I
Yeah.
know, but like watching it on screen for an hour and a half didn't sell me on it.
Mhm.
Like, oh sure, it could be realistic, but I mean that's why we watch movies, is because they're not supposed to be realistic.
I will say that, to touch on just the other point, if we're going with I feel funny being the one that's like, oh, this is a Christian movie, but it does feel an awful lot like he is a good person from the get-go, from the very beginning of the movie. He's like a perfectly good person.
I
and
would
he
hang out
splits-
with that guy.
I mean,
We'd
more
already
so
be
than
friends.
that, I think that part of it is that human virtue is not enough. Like, in fact, some aspects of human virtue are the reason that you are currently suffering, singer, like, or ringer, or whatever. What the fuck is it?
Singer.
Jacob Singer, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the fact that you have that you're a virtuous human is the thing that's holding you back. You need to let go of your earthly attachments if you want to escape these mortal bonds.
That's a good point.
And so, like, every attachment that he has, except for the one that's ethereal, which is his dead son, have to go, I think. And that's probably why when he gets to his apartment at the very end and he calls out Sarah's name, that he has to wait there for like a whole ass day, because he's probably like, oh shit, like I still, like, even though I came here to, like, to my staircase, to my ladder to heaven, like I still am like carrying baggage with me. And it's not just that I have to give up the sex and Jezebel and like all of these things, like all these attachments that I have. I finally was like, oh, the chiropractor's right, I gotta go and like get out of here. It's like now I'm here, and it's like, the things that are closest to my heart, my family, I still have not given up on them, until he sits there and waits and waits and waits, and he's finally like, like I've finally gotten to the point where it is just my soul and my and no earthly attachments, and I can fly away. Like that's the defense of it. Whether or not it works, I don't know. I think it's really hard, because I'm trying to think a lot. I like to always think about like, how could they have done it better when we watch movies? But in this particular one, if you like talk to Gabe at the end, if he said anything to Gabe, but if he literally looked at Gabe and was like, I finally did it, I finally stopped wanting
that would have sucked.
It's like, shut the fuck
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think at
Right.
that point they probably were like, man, if he says anything, it's gonna fuck up the whole vibe. So we're just
Yeah.
gonna have him not say anything. And that was probably the best choice, even though maybe they wrote themselves into a corner. And I get what you're saying, but at least he didn't fucking cheapen
Yeah.
the moment by
Mhm.
talking exposition at his kid or something like that.
Thank God they didn't
I-
have that moment. Is like, now you're ready to move on, and it's like,
I
all of a
know,
sudden
right?
This,
Yeah.
this kid who
Yeah.
knows everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. Well,
Yeah,
let's-
I do feel like there's a inherent expectation in us watching movies these days where you expect a character progression in terms of their personality and their realization of the consequences of their own life. But this was just him as a fixed personality on a journey, and I was okay with it.
That's
Yeah.
a good way of describing it.
what is
Fixed
the,
personality going
yeah.
through this. Yeah.
What's the angel Gabriel? What's his role in Judeo-Christian?
That's a question to Ben.
Or
I
a
actually-
theologian.
What does Gabriel do? I don't know. What is Gabriel's name?
Gabriel
Uh,
is
the guardian angel of Israel.
another archangel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's archangel, but he's
nothing really
he's
that
the
stands
he's
out.
the angel of strength, apparently.
I only know the angels from the horror movies, The Prophecy. Let's
Very
go
nice.
back to this.
What's really crazy is how dark my neck is and how white the rest of me is. Look at
Oh my
that.
God.
That's a farmer's
weird?
tan.
Yeah, and you said you couldn't tan.
It looked like I dipped my head upside down in a bucket of reddish brown paint.
Reddish
And-
brown.
It's really terrifying.
It is a little.
I got a
I'm
Jacob's
going
ladder head neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and at least
Jacob Ladderhead.
well,
neck,
bro,
yeah.
this is 48 years of burn, bro.
48 Years of Burn is the first album.
Yeah, 48 years of burn.
Years of burn. Oh, I like that.
Of dummy thick smoke wagon or whatever. it is.
Dummy
Smoke wagon.
Smoke boat.
48 years of burn on the dummy thick smoke boat.
Oh man.
You're writing all these
well,
down,
in
Dan.
it-
You're putting them in the thing.
Dummy
Yeah.
thick.
Oh yeah. I'll put
Dummy
it in.
Thick could be the song. Smoke Boat could be the band, and 48 Years of Burn is the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
I'll put dummy thick smoke butt in as one thing. It's going right underneath butthole breaths.
Okay, so in at least some passages, Gabriel is an indicator. Specifically, he's a trumpeter of the angelic army.
I almost thought you said Trumper. I was worried.
A trumpeter, yeah.
Trumpeter. They're very close.
He's a
Gabriel's wearing
trumpeter.
MAGA hat.
Yeah.
And he's actually a little too apparently, according to this, he's a little too impatient with his trumpets, and God always has to tell him to like cool it with the horn.
Dude, enough with the trumpets.
He's trying to play Careless Whisper all the time on trumpet.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
That would be awesome.
That wouldn't
actually.
work.
Yeah. And the trumpet is to signify the presence of God, meaning that like the Lord is here. So when that's the apparently that's the whole thing with the end of the world or whatever the biblical end times thing is called. I forget. But you will hear Gabriel's trumpet when you are being ascended to
Talking about
heaven. Yeah,
When the
like,
trumpet
Oh.
of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the
That-
glory of his resurrection share.
so that's
Wow.
Gabriel blowing the trumpet. And
It's an old hymn.
So presumably,
And that's why his son's name is Gabe.
Yeah.
his son's name is Gabriel because he's
Hey, the Lord's here.
indicating that the Lord is here and like
Mhm.
now it's time to go in this guy's particular case.
But is it trumpet or is it trumpet?
Okay, this is not what a trumpet looks like, Daryl. I don't
That's
know.
a
if you-
trombone.
Trombone.
That is
Sorry,
definitely
trumpet.
trombone.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Trumpet, not a trombone.
Dare you.
So
That's
I-
48 years of burn.
Yeah,
Mhm.
40 years of burn right there, baby.
Forty.
this is another segue kind of, but within the movie. I was just on the Wikipedia, and I had assumed that one of the actors of a character was a different character actor, but Kyle Gass from
KG.
KG
Of
plays
Tenacious
Tony
D.
in this movie.
Yep.
Oh,
It was
Wow.
like I believe the guy
Tenacious
that got
D.
blown up in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And I'd assumed it was an actor that I've seen in a bunch of other movies. Where,
No way.
yeah,
That's
so
crazy. I didn't know.
Tenacious
Kyle
D
Gass.
with
Tenacious D.
Jack Black.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, he's in the movie.
wow. Huh. Had no idea.
Wait, what?
Rage
Right?
Cage. Yeah, that's him, Kyle Gass.
And I'm gonna figure out that other actor that I'm thinking of because they looked identical at that
Oh.
time, apparently.
Chris Farley.
Pruitt Taylor Vince played Paul. So when I said Pruitt, that's who that was. Where the hell is Kyle Gass at? I'm looking.
That's really Kyle Gass. Oh my god.
Because
Oh shit! It is. Kyle Gass.
there's another psychological thriller, not really a horror movie. That's also Fever Dream,
That's
where
crazy.
it's multiple personalities in a motel setting. If anybody remembers this, starts with an I is the name.
Yeah, that's
But it has this
Yeah,
actor with
it's-
shaky eyes who's the
it's-
actual insane person.
It's called iCarly.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Miranda Cosgrove.
Thank you. But
Oh, shaky eyes,
but
not
Daryl knows
crossed
what I'm
eyes.
talking about.
Pruitt Taylor Vince is that guy, that actor you're talking about. That's
Okay.
It's in, and I can't remember the name of the movie. I know what you're talking about. It starts with
Wait,
an
so
I.
is he in this? Oh, he is in Jacob's
Yeah,
Ladder.
yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm
he's the guy that
confusing
cries
two.
at the beginning.
Never mind. Yes.
Yeah, what the hell is the name of that movie?
so
with
so
the eye that I-
who's? But Kyle
It's
Gass
not
plays Tony in this. So I'm trying to remember where he shows up.
Identity is the movie you're thinking of.
Identity. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
that was not great.
Yeah.
All those characters are in this guy's head.
Yeah.
Is that the one with
Yes.
John Cusack and
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale?
Okay, so I have no idea who Tony was in this movie, but Kyle
Me
Gass
neither.
plays him.
I didn't know the Kyle.
And
yeah.
now I got to watch it for a fourth time.
Oh shit.
to find Kyle
Cage.
Gass.
Cage,
Yeah.
I need you.
Yeah.
Wait, there is one. Thinking about the guy's kids, there is one moment that I wanted to ask you guys about because I really appreciated it, but maybe it's also a sign of bad writing. Do you guys notice that he calls Eli Pickles exactly one time in the movie? It's when he's it's right after the
The hospital when he throws his back up.
Interesting.
No, it's right after the oh, does he call him that in the hospital as well?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so it happens twice. I saw it when it was when right after the ice tub scene and he comes back to life in
And he
in
puts
the house
Macaulay
with
Culkin
Sarah.
to bed. And,
He puts Macaulay Culkin to bed and then he's
and
like
Eli says, "I love you, Dad," and he says, "I love you too, pickles,"
Huh.
or something like that.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, what the fuck? Well, but I do like that writing technique of like, of course, a father is going to have like a pet name for his child. and it doesn't need to be explained. Like, thank God they weren't like, him and Sarah like, oh, remember when he ate too many pickles and pooped himself, and then I
Yeah,
saw
That would have
that
been
would've
so
pickles.
horrible.
That's kind of a British thing because Sean's mom calls Sean Pickle
Yeah.
in Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, really?
Huh.
I think that's a common, but that's also
Ah.
a common term of affection in the British Isles. So
I don't-
It's not particularly relevant to the story. I just like it because it kind of gives a little bit more life to the world, where it's like, yeah, Dad would have a nickname for his kid. He's not going to call all his kids by their first name.
There is one
It's true.
scene that I like too, when after he does throw his back out and Sarah and the kids visit him, somebody in a neighboring bed says something to him in a really raspy voice. I can't remember what they say. They call him like whatever or something like that, but they never show the person. He just like looks over in fear, and then
Yeah.
they never ever talk about it again. I
honestly had to rewind a couple times to make sure I didn't miss it again and
Yeah,
again. and
I
again.
can't remember what the person said, but I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Where he just like looks at the camera really quickly, and then Sarah's crying over him, and it's just like a really quick. He's still kind of losing his mind.
Yeah.
So I liked
Yeah.
all of that. I will say all of the people on the subway train, and they're all shaking their heads. The shaking the heads thing, anything like that is kind
Shaking the heads.
of shaking their heads. That's kind of like, I don't know, not crazy in your face, but it's more suspenseful. It's more just regular, good old fashioned fear.
Did you know that this movie heavily influenced Silent Hill? I don't know if you guys have played.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
I actually found that out today.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Really?
the one connection that I made actually was the eyes. There's a lot of the creatures and stuff that don't have eyes,
Right.
or
Yeah.
at least have hoods over their heads. In the Sane Asylum, there's a lot of that going on. Everybody on the train does not have eyes. The conductor,
Mhm.
and that waves at him like that does not have eyes. There's one of the dudes that I think might be the guy that does it kind of looks like a lobotomy, but not really. When he sticks that needle in his forehead, he doesn't have
Oh.
eyes. And so
When-
that's a big thing in the Silent Hill enemies is they either have their eyes covered or they just don't have eyes.
So
Okay,
my
I
question about the
think-
subway, in retrospect, like I kept thinking a bit deeper on it, even decades ago now, that the subway was like the river Styx, taking dead people there. But now when it's just all in a human person's imagination at the moment of death, is that even applicable? Is that relevant?
It might be. You know that the subway scene, I learned this doing a little bit of research after I watched the movie. The subway scene in particular is a dream that the writer of the movie had that inspired them to write the rest of the movie. So this
Mhm.
subway
Oh,
scene in
wow.
particular was
Huh.
them trapped in a subway because they tried to exit and the thing was locked. And so their only choice was to descend into the depths of like what felt like hell to
Huh.
escape. And that was the inspiration for the movie, which is like really cool in some aspects, but then also like, Twilight was written from a dream too. So like, it's not really
Mhm.
like that.
So where did the sparkles come from in Twilight?
Yeah.
Let's not get on to Twilight again. But yes, anyway, so the sparkle skin in Twilight, is why they can't go out during daytime or something. That's why they moved to
Forks?
Washington.
Yeah.
Well, they
What's
don't like the
Rivercast?
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, they don't want to show off in front of other people.
But going back, did the subway make sense in that way that I thought of it with River Styx, like transporting the dead?
I don't- I
the
think it's just-
underworld?
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
so. I
trippy
mean, I
shit.
think
I think
all
it's
of
just
this
trippy shit.
again is originated in his mind, and
Yeah.
I think that the fact that they're like covered in frosted glass or whatever it is
Yeah.
his first impression of these goings on, because before then he
Okay,
doesn't see any
yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
He's sitting on the subway, sees the guy,
First thing he sees
the
is that
homeless
tail, that
person with the
tentacle.
tail,
Mhm.
and gets off, and I just think it's a
Did you guys notice that he's reading
Little
The
Sarlacc.
Stranger in that?
Yeah.
Have you guys read
I
that book?
I was trying to
The
see
Stranger?
what he was reading. Yeah, what
He
was
was
that?
reading The Stranger by Albert Camus or Albert Camus. It's a book about it's a book about a guy
Their
that
first
Chasm.
pronunciation was so much better.
Yeah, Camus.
Albert Camus is the actual name, but
Oh, yeah,
That's
Albert
so much
Camus
better than
is great.
Albert Camus.
I love Albert Camus.
but no, so The Stranger is it's like one of the fundamental books of the absurd, which makes a lot of sense in the context of this movie, because the absurd is when you recognize that life has no meaning and that like there's no point to live or care about anybody or like have emotions at all, because like it's literally all meaningless. And in the stranger. It all culminates in the main character like murdering somebody and then being sentenced to execution because he can't defend himself in the trial because he doesn't care.
The
that they're
nihilist,
hiding
man.
it. Well, yeah, nihilism is more
Care about
optimistic,
nothing.
Nice marmot.
but
Yeah.
So just
Nice
today,
marmot.
just today, I've been binging the 3rd season of The Sinner on Netflix, and it's very relevant to what you were just talking about. And it's
about the
fantastic.
absurd and
Hey
It is
man, this is a
fantastic.
private residence.
but applied to the movie, it makes a lot of sense because a big part of it is like, do I like give in to the absurd, like the absurdity of life, and like whatever, like hedonism is good enough because at least I feel, or do I get rid of all my bonds to the planet? Like, it makes sense. It thematically fits that he's reading The Stranger. I just thought it was kind of a cool little thing that he started in this place of like life doesn't matter.
This movie is very heavy on the symbolism and the
Which
Easter
is
eggs
cool.
and red herrings, but
Yeah.
the way it fits, it doesn't feel like overbearing, surprisingly.
It's not like Mr. Nobody. You look at Mr. Nobody
Yeah.
and you like try to dive into the things and you're like, I don't know if this really fits with the themes of the movie. And then this movie, it's like, oh wow, this is all really cohesive and nice.
I
Mhm.
thought
Thank
all
you.
the creepy shit didn't make sense. I didn't think it made sense for it to be a horror movie with all these weird creatures and stuff.
They're demons
Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand
trying
that,
to
but
be
it doesn't
angels or whatever.
it doesn't really make sense. Like, it seems like they're all out to get him. There's especially one of
And
the scenes.
as Louis says, it's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
seem that way.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but like even still, like when I got some wine staining there. So when he's at the very end, when he's hanging out in his apartment, when he's going through like his army stuff, and there's a scene where he like flips the mirror over, and there's the dude shaking his head and stuff, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna look at that," and there's just like no reason for that stuff to be there. Really, I never felt like there was a reason for that stuff to be there once you kind of figure out what's going on. And now like thinking back on it and even like talking about it, like it doesn't make any sense to me. Whereas like I could look at a lot of horror movies that have encroaching demons or ghosts or something. A great example is I think the first Insidious movie, or maybe the second one.
Yeah.
A lot of that is very, very if you didn't have that, it wouldn't make any sense.
Well, I think you
Now-
figured
now,
out too
as
But
quick.
much
it's
as-
also, but
as
I
much
will also
as,
say
like-
it's very focused on that because it's a ghost movie. But I mean, as a part, I think it is Insidious too. Is when all these ghosts are trying to enter the home. They're trying to get at the character, and that never really happens. They're never trying to get at him. They're always just kind of there around him. And it doesn't.
I think you figured it out too quick, is all. Because if you hadn't figured it out so quick,
Probably.
this stuff would have been the red herring mystery crap that we've been talking about the
I
whole time. Because I didn't realize what was going on until the end of the film when I first saw it.
Okay.
I
You know what I
wonder
mean?
if you could also interpret it as like the demons are manifestations of his anxiety, and so like I don't know if like you guys have had panic attacks, but a big way to solve a panic attack is to literally just like distract yourself with something else until it goes away. Like that's the coping mechanisms that they teach you in like therapy and stuff on how to get over a panic attack is literally like, ground yourself, chew on black pepper, like think about all the things, breathe deeply and slowly and focus on like the present or whatever. Like that's how you get away from a panic attack. I don't know that this is intentional, but I do like the idea that it's like he's still got the anxiety, which is a thing, but he sees it in the mirror, and at that point in the movie, like it's well beyond the point where like now he's starting to recognize that he's surrounded by demons and he's dead, and he looks at the thing in the mirror and he's just like, ugh, and he just like turns the mirror away. Maybe it was a sense of like, yeah, I still got the anxiety, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna focus on other shit, like as a visual metaphor for the way to resolve a panic attack.
Is there
That would be a fun way to interpret it, I
a
think.
different kind of pepper besides black pepper?
White pepper.
White pepper.
White
There's a
pepper.
lot of different.
Is
types
it
of
really?
pepper. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never heard of anything but black pepper. So
Red
Red
we just,
pepper.
Jalapeno pepper.
I guess maybe
Red pepper
maybe red
flakes?
peppers.
Mhm.
But
There's-
Red
I think-
pepper flakes are like made from multiple different peppers, I believe,
Correct.
as
Right.
well.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
it's not a pepper; it is many peppers.
it's
That's
a,
true.
so they're lying to us.
I like
The
how
flakes
you're like,
are
is there any
made
other
of
type of pepper
multiple
besides
peppers?
black pepper?
And you guys are like
Maybe-
9,000
Habanero
peppers.
pepper,
It's just
Scotch
colors.
pepper, Carolina
Well,
Reaper
hold on,
pepper.
hold on. Okay. You're talking about peppers.
So
I'm
you're
talking about the
pepper
little shit you
seeds.
shake out on your steak.
Well, there's white pepper.
Yeah, that's
white pepper.
Okay,
that's
well,
very
okay.
similar to that.
So there's two peppers.
There are two peppers. Yeah, because red pepper does not fit into white or black pepper. Red
Yeah,
pepper
and
is the
this is-
seeds of
Yeah, the
other
seeds.
peppers.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the
Oh.
shit you shake.
They're
shake-
actually
Well, you
called
shake,
I
pepper
shake red
corn.
pepper.
flakes too.
it is pepper.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking it up on Google. White pepper. It says it's salt. Liars. I'm just kidding. Make shit up. I'd never heard of white pepper.
But immediately going back before to Danon's comment, do you feel like things that you caught as a audience of
Right
this
there, white
movie, as a viewer of this movie, would still be necessary for character development, right? Like things that were clear to you, but as the character progressing through the story were necessary.
I'll go first on that one. I'll say no because of my previous point where he doesn't really seem to accept anything until the last 5 minutes of the movie. So a lot of
Yeah.
what you're going through is, I mean, and I think Ben said it too, or no, it was you, Brent, where it's like panic, and then it's resolved, and then the movie's over. Where it's like, yeah, that's kind of like or maybe it was Doug, where it's like, yeah, he's dying. That makes sense for him to be panicking, you know. But again, it's an hour and a half long movie. I didn't buy it, you know. I was just like,
Yeah.
But
That's
I would
fair.
say to answer your question is that a lot of the demons are probably more film mechanics to keep the pace, to keep you unbalanced, to keep you asking questions than they are actually, well, what is this, or why is he seeing it in the mirror, or things like that. Is that they're in the mirror because they're closer, because he's dodging this way, dodging that way, trying to explain it with the drugs, with everything else. And essentially those demons are pushing him into a corner. And especially the one when he sees it in the mirror, that's as close pretty much as he's gotten to one of these demons. And again, is I think a lot of their appearance and a lot of their, especially when they're on the subway and you can just barely see them as they're passing by and the conductor waves or whatever, is I think it's probably more film mechanic than actual character
Lots
in the
of pepper.
story. It's meant to scare us, not necessarily him.
okay. And then my problem with that too is the demons and stuff like that was very inconsistent. When we're getting into that plot line with the government conspiracy, they're nowhere to be found for a good 30 to 45 minutes.
Which goes back to
And
what we were
again-
talking
and
about
again
before,
is-
that kind of bouncing between reality and then psychosis almost.
And
right?
but I mean, that's also pretty well explained that I mean, all of this is coming about in his head. And you notice as soon as he focuses on something very grounded, like the government trying to make secretly giving them drugs and going to a lawyer and getting with his other army buddies and stuff like that, that's why they're not there.
Okay.
Is because he's going in this direction where everything seems he's got an answer, at least short term. Because you notice as soon as that falls apart, the demons come back.
Right. And you'll notice that
And
too,
that's the reason why.
there's I only noticed 3 types of demons. There were the eyeless demons, which I don't know, they probably signify something to do with, like, lack of being able to see the path or whatever. Then there's the guy who has no legs and has the bag over his head, and that's clearly like a victim of like war injuries or trauma, right? Because like he's missing limbs. That's like the only thing
Lieutenant
that really
Dan.
stood out to me. He was kind of Lieutenant Dan out, yeah. And then the last one was literally just him.
Lieutenant Dan demon.
Like the third kind of demon was just him. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but one of the demons that was following him was literally just him, and like spooky. It was, it was just, I mean, it was literally him.
Delivering mail.
And it's like, oh my
That
god,
is
it's me,
scary.
but scary. And it's like, well, okay, that's like my I don't know, that's like the shadow to his Sonic or whatever the fuck. So Yeah, I think that, you know, the demons, I was looking at the demons for meaning in the movie, because I was like, they have to have like something that, there has to be a reason that they look this way, and that was the arbitrary value that I gave them. So I think that
Also, it looks cool.
they
Yeah.
do look cool, but I think that they
And
do
scary.
have meaning. I feel like, you know, the demons themselves as manifestations of something were thought out. It would be really weird in this particular movie for them to have put something in it that they didn't think through, because it's clear that they thought through a lot of very minute details. To
Yeah.
miss something as big as like the design of the monsters that are chasing him would be very shocking to me.
Ratings?
You read?
Sure.
Yeah.
We've been going for 2 hours.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
let's
Like
definitely-
ratings?
Well,
Yeah,
when we
definitely.
watch good movies, we have shit to say. It's,
We
Yeah.
did bullshit for the first 20 minutes, but
Yeah, exactly.
that's-
There's
that's
a lot of
normal.
bullshit too.
That's normal. I'll go first. I'd probably give this movie a 5. Again, it just, for whatever reason, like I was on my phone about half this movie. Maybe that's why I didn't.
monster.
But you know, if that's what happened, that's what
Yeah.
happened.
So
You
and
know?
that's the thing, is like I love a lot of the. I'm able to kind of like set that aside, that a lot of these older movies are gonna have a lot of tropes, is because they're kind of, they haven't been done yet. You know, I'm totally able to set that aside. That being said, there was just a lot of about this movie where I'm just like, you know, it's same thing like you guys were thinking, like, or Dad, for you, like you were like Mr. Nobody when we watched that last week. This movie, Jacob's Ladder, did all those ideas so much better, but I'm thinking on the opposite side of that, you know, where I'm just like, I liked all the different realities and storylines and stuff like that, and the different goings on in like Mr. Nobody a lot better. You know, it made more sense to me. It was something that I could grasp on and like identify
Yeah.
with and, you know, emotionally connect to. Whereas in this movie, I was just like, you know, I was totally in it for the psychological horror, which I love. Thriller movies are my favorite type of genre. I can always get into a thriller movie, but for this movie, I was just like, there was not a single part where I was like, okay, I'm in, like through the entire movie. So I was always thinking about what was going on the screen, you know, and wondering about it. Which, and for me, when I'm watching a movie, you know, and I'm into a movie, I don't think. I just take it in.
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like my mind goes blank. I'm not thinking about the movie. I'm not thinking about, oh my gosh, this is amazing what this movie's doing. I don't do that until the end. And so there was never a point where this movie had to actually grab to me where I was, you know, not thinking about what was happening on screen, which to me is a big red flag about the movie, and you know why I wouldn't like it or something. And even like I was kind of hoping to come onto the podcast and like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. Okay, I accept that. And that did happen, but it didn't help me like the movie any better. So. Yeah, I mean, I recognize there's a lot of good stuff going on. You know, a lot of good imagery and a lot of good, not double entendres. What are they called? Metaphors, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it just didn't do it for me. So yeah,
The symbology.
yeah.
What's the symbology on
symbology
Yeah,
of the-
symbology.
Mhm.
I'll go
The
next.
movie
I give it a 9. I think the fact that back in the 80s, especially, but even into the 90s, we didn't know the word trope or what it even meant. I don't think there were tropes yet. There were, obviously, but they weren't recognized the way they're recognized now. And I think that's part of the problem. What I keep going back to about audiences being way more sophisticated now than they've ever been is part of the problem with entertainment right now, period, is how do we keep us as a sophisticated audience knowing about tropes and story arcs and the hero's journey and all this crap? How do you keep us entertained? You know what I mean? Because back when I first saw this, you know, I was 16 or 17. I had no idea what the hell was going on until the
Right.
very end of the movie. So it was a very different experience for me. You know, Sixth Sense was the same way. I had no idea that he was a ghost until the end when he popped out of the spaceship. Just kidding. I didn't know. You know, I was so wrapped up in the film. The acting and all that shit was so good. But this movie still holds up for me. I still love this movie. I think it's a great fever dream. You know, and again, after my initial, and the only reason I was so pissed off and felt cheated was because it scared me so bad. And I think I initially wanted to be more than the fact that this guy was just dying. And then again, like I said earlier, I gave it a few years, came back to it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie's brilliant. And I really saw how wonderful it was. So it's interesting. Again, like I said, for you, Dan, it's a 5. For me, it's a solid 9. It's not even a light 9.
It's all right. It's good.
I love everything about this movie. You know, I don't think I'll ever give a movie a 10. I don't think it's possible. But that's why you never hear me give me anything a 10. Because I
Blade
really,
Runner.
I think just like movies, women, there's no such thing as a 10. The 10 is perfection, and there's no such.
I mean, have you seen Leprechaun in the Hood?
I have, and that is 8 and 11. Actually.
No, I'd agree with you there. I'd
Featuring
agree with you there.
Ice-T.
The only reason I have given movies 10 is on their ability to mechanically achieve what they set out to do. That's why.
Yeah,
I
but
give
even
Lord of the
like
Rings is a 10 because they set out to make an adaptation of this book that is so much better than the book, and they get all
Yeah.
the points across that they need to get points. It's a lot better than the book, Ben. They have a favorite bath song.
there's
which
no dumb
implies
singing.
that they have
No
multiple
dumb
bath
singing.
songs.
I hate all the
They do
singing in
have
Lord of the Rings. I
multiple
couldn't get
bath
through it.
To
All the
take
stupid singing.
to take my uncle's point of view on that.
Yeah, and I have a list of perfect films, and yes, I do it with air quotes because there's no such thing as perfect film. When
Right.
I say perfect film, I'm saying that they hit all the points well enough that you forgive their trespasses, if you will, or it takes you several viewings to really start seeing. What are those clip notes?
It's the Lord
Lord
of
of
the
the
Rings.
Books.
I know I'm teasing them.
Good. Have
They were
them.
just so thin. I just thought they were clip notes. But anyway, so yeah, a 9, solid 9. I think is a great film. But again, nowadays, with everyone being so sophisticated, it probably ain't gonna mean much. And you'd be like, And I understand that. Too. We talk about this all the time. I always definitely bring it up every time we do this goddamn podcast about the beauty of art and the beauty of your interpretation of it is different for everybody. So, anyways, next.
I'll go. I would give this a strong 8 to light 9.
Ooh, yes. Yes.
I think
Not a soft 9.
not
No,
a soft
light 9.
not
Light
a
9.
soft 9.
A light 9.
There's no such thing as a soft 9.
No, I was complaining last podcast about not being able to sink my teeth into something like Mr. Nobody because the more I chew, the less it tastes good, I guess. But with this
That's a good
movie,
quote.
with this movie, I felt like I was rewarded for wanting to know and understand the symbolism or symbology, and all those things. And I'm not even particularly learned on Christian theology or anything like that, but it was really nice that even the limited understanding that I have of the mythos was like rewarding in sense of like, yeah, that actually makes sense and it's cool. And like when you dig, I mean, sometimes you're like, yeah, that makes sense and it's cool, and then you look it up and you're like, oh wait, no, I didn't actually understand it well enough.
Yeah.
But with this, it was like a lot of that stuff was like really cool to like see that and how they were inspired by that. And not just that, because this is old enough to see like, oh yes, this has gone on to inspire other things. And this particular movie, I don't think falls into the realm of Seinfeld isn't funny, where it's like Seinfeld was the first, comedy to do the like despicable characters. And now we've done that so much that if you watch Seinfeld, you're like, wow, this isn't even close to as good as Always Sunny. Or whatever.
Yeah. Why does everybody love this so much?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a danger with older media that has inspired a lot of stuff, like you were saying, Daryl. But watching this movie, I was thoroughly entertained by it. I did figure out the premise pretty quickly because I've been exposed to the concept of the main character has been dead all along or whatever. I think I said to myself, he never left Vietnam, probably 3 or 4 times during my viewing of the movie for this first time. But it didn't cheapen the impact of the ending because the writers, the director, and everybody else took the time to make every scene and everything that's happening like have some kind of greater connection to the story beyond just the like gimmicky we gotcha, we tricked you kind of stuff. Which is really cool. It's admirable that they did that. I wouldn't give this a 10 out of 10 or anything like that, not because it's not an extremely well executed movie, but just because like Philosophically, it probably is just not as there it does what it gets across what it's trying to say really well. I don't know that what it's trying to say is like, you know, the cream of the crop of like thematic ideas. And so like for me personally, it's not like a movie that I'm like, oh my God, you have to like watch this movie because it resonated so much with me. It's more like, holy fuck, they set out to do something, they nailed it. I liked it. I don't even particularly like, it's not like I think about this shit all the time, but like they got that across to me, and like I'm like super happy that I can like really chew on it and think about it and like have fun with the ideas that they're presenting. Like that's all the signs of great storytelling. And you know,
Yeah.
I mean, like making you care about something that you didn't think you would is really impressive. So like, yeah, like strong 8 to light 9 for me. Like I would watch this movie again. I would share this movie
Mhm.
with other people. I wish it was a little less graphic so that I could share it with everybody. But you know, like it's a good movie, and I think that people would enjoy it if they sat down and shut up and watched it.
Yeah.
Guess I'll go. I'd probably give it a 9 as well. I feel like this is a unique movie that I've rewatched it through different periods of my life and had progressive experiences with it, where I've definitely learned more and more as I've gotten older watching it, and through this talk on here, getting into some of the symbology and deeper meanings of it. And it's interesting to have a film that has definitely influenced either like games that we've seen in video game movies with Silent Hill, as well as potentially other movies with Sixth Sense, dealing with death and spirituality and acceptance, while not during rewatching, not feeling like it's a trope in itself. Like it still feels like an original take, unique from the things that have followed. So with me learning more and more as I watch, while still enjoying its own uniqueness, it definitely stands out among a lot of movies that have followed. So it's a solid 9.
Mm-hmm.
The editing is great. The symbology, even though there's so much like Easter eggs and potentially heavy-handedness, but still fitting in with the story is fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would give this a firm 7. I would give this movie a firm 7. So no jig sev.
The no jig Seth.
No jig sev. Yeah. I think that this movie, when I was talking to my coworker about this podcast, I was going to go talk about this movie Jacob's Ladder before, and she had never seen it, and she's into horror movies and that kind of thing. And it kind of dawned on me. I was like, you know what? If you like horror movies, horror thriller movies, psychological thrillers, and you've never heard of Jacob's Ladder, which a lot of people probably haven't, especially if they're people around my age, there's still a lot to like about this movie. And I told her, go watch it.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu. Because if this is the kind of movie that you're already into, and you've never seen it before, there's still a lot to like about it. I think more people will come away like Ben, going like, oh my gosh, there was a lot here to really sink my teeth into, and it was really cool. There's a lot about it that really holds up. You know, I found myself within the first 15 minutes of the movie being like genuinely creeped out.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the creepiness of it, you know, is still translates really well on screen. And like you said, Ben, if you really sit down, shut up, and just watch it, you know, it's a good movie. And especially if it's something that you're already kind of into. And now for me, that's why I think I would give it a 7, because it's not the kind of movie I would normally turn. It's not my preferred genre. I don't watch a lot of these kinds of movies often, but I think for what it is, it really nails it. And this is a movie I would recommend to people, a lot of people. And I'm kind of glad that a lot of people haven't heard of it, because I think there's, it's not a cult classic or anything like that, but you know, people should really give this one a watch if they haven't seen it before. I know that you run the risk of having I think what you said, Dan, is probably true. Like there's tropes in the movie and that kind of thing. You do that, run that risk with maybe some viewers who might get that sort of thing from it. But I think all in all, even if you just watch it for the creepiness of it, and if you lean into the horror side of this movie, and you don't lean in so much into the thematic side of it, no, it didn't really build up, or this didn't make sense. If you just lean into the horror side of it, it's a really fun watch. And if nothing else, it gets that. So yeah, solid 7 for me.
Doug?
Okay, I think I'll side with the majority and say I'll give it a 9. While I understand what you're saying, Dana, and that certainly is a part of it. For me, even if I knew from the first 30 seconds that he was dead, the ride is fun. So and for me at least, that's more what a movie is about. And like, I don't necessarily have to, like what Bleak Ben and Jeremy both said, is that you don't necessarily have to agree with the theme being presented. You don't necessarily have, I think if you sit back and enjoy it like a ride, it's really creepy. It's really, it can be thought-provoking. Is it frustrating because there's so many red herrings? Yeah, it can be, but that's also part of the fun. And it's so overall, I think that it does ask a lot of questions, answers a few, doesn't answer others, but for me at least, overall it's an enjoyable ride as far as horror / psychological thrillers go. And I think this is the first time I've seen it in a number of years. So, but it was still, next time around, I would definitely go see it again myself. So it's.
I have an interest, off what you said, Doug. I have an interesting, and talking about Dan. You gave it a 5. We all clearly liked it more than he did. Mm-hmm. I think you can't control the way you react to a movie, the same way you can't control who you fall in love with. So with this movie, it just didn't work for Dan for whatever reason.
That's fine.
No, I mean, that's what I've been saying the entire time.
And he had no control over that. Yeah. He had no control over that. Just as Ben, when he saw her and he's wrong, he hates it.
I don't
but
like
I mean,
that
like,
movie.
you know what I mean? Like, you don't like it at all. Where me and Dan, and
I still haven't seen it.
Right when I saw it, I was like, oh
Never
my
saw
God.
it.
I knew right away. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love this movie already.
Yeah.
And I haven't even seen the motherfucker.
Have you?
There Will Be Blood was another one. There Will Be Blood was another one where I forget that I'm watching a movie and I just get immersed, which is hard to do for people like us who not only love movies but also analyze them. And if you're analyzing a movie while you're watching it, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
If you're already trying to break it down, and you can't help that, right?
Yeah,
that just happens.
That's what I've been saying. I mean, that's why I like,
and that's fair,
talking about movies. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I could have watched. There's a lot of movies, even still, where I just watch them on my own because I want to watch them, and I will never talk about them with anybody. You know, because I'm just like, okay, I'll take it as it is. But then there's
like Made in Manhattan,
or like the Suicide Squad that I just watched. Don't need to talk about that movie. With
The Suicide Squad?
Oh
man.
Or
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 11.
The Suicide Squid?
Yeah, Suicide Squid. Starfish, if you... Spoiler alert.
Chocolate starfish.
Isn't that
Wow.
Robin's girlfriend?
Only we could fly.
Starfish.
Sorry, that's my Fred Durst impression.
That's why, I mean, that's the reason we started these movie podcasts and everything too, is like to get the different perspectives. Now, granted, when I was watching this movie, I mean, I did read up. Every time I watch any movie, I'll always read the Wikipedia article. I'll read the synopsis, so I kind of getting a little bit of an idea of what I'm getting into. And a lot of the movies that I'll kind of like randomly pick out, it's almost like a hat in my brain, you know? I'm just like, okay, I'll watch this. This is kind of one of those movies where we watch it for the podcast.
Wait, hold on a second. You read the Wikipedia synopsis before the film?
No, the synopsis, not the plot section, but like the tiny little blurb about it.
Okay, I'm going to yell at you. Don't do that no more.
No, but I
Going
do that
cold.
for everything. No,
Going
no,
cold.
Wait.
Synopsis shows
All
less than
right,
a trailer.
Yeah,
Just
I do
going
this for
cold.
everything.
But-
It's literally
Go
like
ahead.
two sentences about the movie. But
Yeah,
I will
log
say,
line.
this is where I get like, okay, people like this movie. It does influence the way that I watch a movie in
Yeah.
a positive manner. I knew going into this movie that it was a cult classic, so I'm going to look for things that people find in cult classic movies of older movies. The problem and the thing is I did see a lot of that stuff. A lot of the imagery, a lot of the makeup effects are fantastic. There's a lot of good in this movie. I will say, like we've talked about a couple times, but the editing is perfect. I mean, there's never a point where I was just like, well, now what's going on? You know, like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
all
That
made
is true.
sense
Yeah.
moving forward in time through the movie as opposed to backward in time through the movie. But there was just a lot of what was happening on screen that I didn't agree with. I didn't agree with the car scene where he's chasing him down and it took him 15 minutes to fucking crash the thing. You know, that's a problem with movies in the 80s and 90s. That shit takes forever. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. like
I also
that.
love.
we
I
let
also
shit-
love that
we let
Jacob
shit
is-
breathe.
Ever.
We let shit
Yeah.
breathe.
But I love that Jacob is fighting in the back with two guys, and him not even touching the driver at the time causes the driver to swerve left and right.
Dude, the driver's constantly like,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude, what are
dude.
you doing?
There's two
Driver,
guys
like-
back there. They can handle it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, don't worry about it till you get kicked in the back of the head. But no, you know, so it's that's why I like coming on the podcast and like talking about it. Like I'm a firm believer in what I said. I'm sticking by my 4 or my 5 or whatever I gave. I can't even remember now.
You give it a 5. Yeah.
Gave it a 5. Okay, because I just didn't get it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that's,
yeah.
like
That's-
we talk about all the time. We talk shit
that.
about it, but
That's
it's
not
totally
wrong.
fair.
Yeah.
I-
That's
you know,
not wrong.
I
It,
tease
it
Ben-
is a
I'm not
character
wrong.
flaw, but it's not
I
wrong.
tease Ben. Yeah, I tease Ben for being wrong about her and things like that. But yeah,
Her is a bad movie. We can talk about that if you want
Yeah.
to.
you know, and you're not wrong for feeling that because that's your experience with it, right? But back to what I said, you have no control over that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
When you go to a movie, which is why again, which is I've talked about this for 1,000 times. There's a beauty of the old days. You had no fucking idea. I mean, I just used to look at something like, okay, and then you go watching it, and that was you had a movie poster in black and white in the back section of a newspaper, and that's all you fucking knew. And trailers back then were a few scenes this summer, you know what I mean? And they told you nothing.
Mhm.
You know, action's got a new name, and it's just stupid shit. And you go watch it, you had no idea what you're watching, and that's how you discovered. You went into it cold, you know. That's why I was like,
I went into this movie cold. I had no idea that it was
I think it's the
about-
best way to do it. So you
I
have
honestly
no
thought
idea.
this was going to be a war movie at first. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
fucking take place
And
in
that's-
Vietnam.
That's better, I think, than going, oh, it's a psychological
Yeah.
thriller. Already, you're like, oh, psychological thriller.
I did
I didn't
know
even
about this
think
movie
about it being a
beforehand.
horror movie until after I'd finished watching it, and then I was like, oh, I guess.
Well, I
guess
can
this
tell you
is
that.
in the realm of
You
horror.
start wondering, is this Skull Island?
Yeah, right.
Leo, is that you?
The preview back in the day made it look like a horror film. You know, which
That's a
was
good
a
way to
red
sell
herring in
it.
itself.
It's a good way to sell it. Yeah.
That's true.
And then
That
you
is-
watch
that
it and you
is a
realize,
red
oh,
herring.
this isn't a horror film. This is a philosophical film about a man dying in his last moments.
Honestly,
Um,
so for me as a kid watching this, I think that lessened the post-watch fear of it because I was scared of a lot of things as a kid, but afterwards seeing like, oh, these things were just in this character's mind. They were him processing something very real, although very deadly. And so my recollection of the movie is not of fear, thankfully. I think.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Especially as
And
young as
I
you
think
are.
it makes me appreciate it a little bit differently.
Is this really a cult classic though? I don't think anyone really
Cult
knows
classic.
about this movie so much. Is it really?
No,
what
I,
it's
It's been
I-
referred to. It's been referred to on like
Really?
IMDb.
I
and
don't
a
think
few
it's a
other
cult
places.
classic, but it certainly has the potential to be one.
It's a cult classic
'Cause I don't
with
think
one of my
it is.
brothers and I, but I've never talked to friends about it in this
Yeah,
way.
I don't think
It's-
anyone really knows about this movie
Well,
when I
what's the
bring it
most-
up.
What's the most famous cult classic movie? It's got to be Donnie Darko.
Donnie
right?
Darko.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
probably.
Yeah.
no movie, no cult
Big
classic
Lebowski,
movie
Donnie
comes
Darko.
close to Donnie Darko because as soon as you say cult classic, it's probably Donnie Darko. That's the first thing
Yeah.
I think of.
The first
So
thing that
it's kind
popped
of
in my head.
unfair. So, but I mean, another thing I want to say about like just doing this in general too is like I don't go into I do go into movies analyzing them all the time because of that's the kind of person I am, and that's how
Yeah.
I was,
That's the only way I know how
I've
to
just-
experience a movie, actually.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the amount of movies that I've seen, not to toot my own horn, but I have seen a lot of movies. I love watching movies, and so I'm always going to go into a movie and analyze it. That being said, we have watched movies specifically for the podcast, like The Green Knight is a great example. We watched The Green Knight specifically to talk about it on the podcast, and I still love that movie. So I'm not over analyzing. I don't think we do this. I mean, you guys all gave it like 7s, 8s, and 9s, which is
And we liked
great.
it the more we talked about it. It was one of those
Exactly.
interesting movies,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Where
so it's
Fives coming out of the
that's
theater, and I think we all
fantastic.
ended up at like 7, 8s, or 9s.
I was probably a 7 coming into this, even though like I like the movie. I just wasn't thinking about it at the level
Yeah.
that we were discussing it. And so this definitely elevated it a bit more.
Well, that's what's the beauty of movies too, or just art in art period is, when we talk about it like this, other people will see things you didn't see, and you'll go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Again, that one with the Green Knight, like I said, I came out a pretty solid 5, and then the more we talked about it, I was like, oh shit, I actually kind of really like this movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same.
Was
Like
the
I
same
realized
way.
how much I liked because I had to process it.
Mhm.
I can definitely be a slow processor. Sometimes shut up, Doug. It takes a couple of days sometimes. No, not with poop. 3 times a day, very regular.
Okay.
Once
I
during the
process
podcast.
food.
Yeah.
I process food very quickly.
What's the process?
Yeah.
Right? It's a tube, throat to butt is what I am.
The straight drop.
It's a drop. It's like an egg drop. But
So
anyway,
we're clearly going human centipede after this.
Oh yeah. That's a natural
well,
progression.
I think after this we talked about Candyman, which I just watched the original
Oh.
again. Okay, we'll save this for the next one, but I think we should watch both.
both.
The
Let's
92
do it. Yeah. Let's do
Yeah.
a comparison.
and this,
I like
and
that.
let's go to the theater.
I
and
absolutely
watch-
loved the original Candyman, and I've been waiting to see it with Dana and Ben. So this would be
Yeah, we got to
good.
talk about this.
Yeah.
because we got
Let's
a lot
go
to talk
watch it
about with
this
Candyman
weekend.
then.
Should
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch
Watch
it.
it this
My
weekend.
my only other shitty suggestion when I looked up what the actual reviews were to follow on a thematic trail would have been What Dreams May Come. But
That is
it's not well rated, but I really enjoyed it back in the day. You know,
What Dreams May Come. I don't know if I've seen this one. Which
That's
one's
Robin
with
Williams.
and
Never seen it.
What's her name? I forget her name.
Annabella Sciorra. I've never seen. I'm not a big fan of Robin Williams, so
really.
I do not condone his buffoonery, which is what which
just
is
because his dramatic acting is
Came out
fantastic.
sanctioned this before.
Yeah.
He's a
So you know
really
what I'm talking
dramatic
about.
actor.
I do know
Tommy
what you're
Lee
talking
Jones
about.
told this to Jim Carrey
Yeah.
when they were both cast in Batman Returns
Forever.
Begins Forever, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey saw Tommy Lee Jones at a restaurant and came up to him and he said, Tommy Lee Jones turned white as a ghost because they hadn't even met or talked or anything yet. And he he goes up to say, hey, Tommy, how's it going? We're casting the same movie. And he was like, I hate you. Tommy Lee Jones straight up said he hated him.
Wow.
And he pulled up a chair and he says, well, what's going on, Tommy? What's the problem? He's like, I can't. What does it say it again, Jeremy?
I cannot sanction your buffoonery.
Buffoonery.
That's amazing.
But Tommy
is how
Lee
I-
Jones was fucking Two-Face in Batman Forever. Are you kidding me? And he said
Oh, he
that
couldn't
shit
sanction
to
his
him?
buffoonery.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I-
well,
this
and
is how
this- yeah.
Always
Oh
felt
my
about Robin
God.
Williams is I can't sanction his buffoonery.
No,
Do
I
like-
agree with his comedic efforts. It's honestly a bit much for me, but he's a fantastic dramatic actor.
No, he is. And I mean, that's the thing is I have a complicated relationship with
Yeah.
Robin Williams because I simultaneously hate his buffoonery,
Yeah,
but he's great in what he's great in.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's where Jim Carrey and Eternal Sunshine is my
That's what I-
absolute
I
fucking
was gonna
favorite.
bring
Yeah,
that
yeah,
up too because a lot of people gave him shit for doing that
Yeah.
dark detective movie a couple years ago. And I'm like, he's been doing dramatic acting for a long time.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine
Yeah.
is a
And
fantastic
a lot of
movie.
times, the
It is
best dramatic
heartbreaking.
actors are comedic,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the
Like
sad clown
the
thing.
Majestic.
Yeah,
Robin Williams also isn't like buffoonish in even his comedic movies, like Jumanji or something. Like,
he's
what is
he's
he-
way more buffoonish in
You're
his
probably thinking of, like, Mrs.
stand-up and
Doubtfire.
interviews where
His
he
stand-up-
just can't control.
Oh,
It's
well,
just like
his
enough.
behavior.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm
And
just
that's what
like,
Jim Carrey's the same way. It's just too much. He's still
Yeah,
good.
but Jim
I gotta
Carrey-
say,
Jim Carrey
Too
and
much all
Ace
the time.
Ventura is like if you said that Jim Carrey was too buffoonish and you like and I was like, oh yeah, Pet Detective, he's like clapping his
I love Pet
butt
Detective.
cheeks together.
Great.
I'm
Like,
just talking about it,
okay,
even in his
Oh,
interviews.
Satan.
It's like
Yeah.
just take it down a level. Even in
Yeah.
interviews, it's like,
Yeah, like back in the day,
Dude.
I would watch all of Inside the Actors Studio, every single one, and
Yeah.
Robin Williams is my least favorite.
It's just too
Horrible.
much.
Really?
uh-huh.
Horrible.
his- He used to do what was it called in the 80s? It was him and it was Poopy Gold Turd and
In Living Color. No.
Comic
no,
relief.
no.
Okay.
Comic Relief.
Yeah.
He was raising money for homeless people or something, but it was it was Robin Williams without any fucking tethers, and it was annoying as fuck. I hated it so much.
Yeah.
It was all the
Yeah.
time, and you're like, and
Yeah.
everyone's ha ha ha. This is so funny.
Translates
Like,
really well when
it's
he's a
not
big
funny.
blue genie cartoon.
Yeah, that
That-
works
that
very
is
well.
one of his
Translates
great-
really
that is one of his
well
great roles.
when you're a
So-
cartoon, but
Yeah.
That's
not
one
so
of his great
much.
roles. Only
So
made
Daryl,
on-
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, but
So
when
very good
he's
point.
great,
Yeah.
he was amazing.
And so I
Um,
feel with what Dreams May Come is one of his great dramatic roles, even though it's not necessarily a very highly rated film. It's right in the 50s of Rotten Tomatoes.
Is this the movie
Interesting.
where he goes to that trippy dream sequence and it's all painted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cuba Gooding
Which I would
Jr.
know.
is there. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Corridor Digital actually just covered the VFX in that.
Oh, interesting.
But
Yeah.
I think Robin Williams' best dramatic role is the poetry movie.
Dead Poets.
No.
Dead Poets
Yeah.
Society.
Dead
Yeah,
Poets.
yeah.
It's the Matt Damon movie.
That's
Good
that's
Will
Will Hunting.
That's my favorite.
for me.
Will
That's number
Hunting.
two.
That's
For
a-
for especially that one scene.
Yeah,
of,
but I think
like,
his best
it's not your
dramatic role
fault.
It's not
Yeah,
your
no,
fault.
it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
But with
Shut
all
up,
that
man.
said, I am 100% on this Candyman train. This is great.
I
That's it.
can't condone his buffoonery, and he looks like he's wearing a sweater at all times with his shirt off, and I just can't deal
he's
with
a
it.
very
yeah,
young
it's
man.
true.
He's
very young
hirsute,
man.
and I won't do
Okay,
it.
I have a quick non sequitur question for the audience. The audience being you guys, not the literally not the
We
We're
know
not
what you
talking
meant.
to chat. We're not talking to
Um,
chat. Sorry, chat.
I'm not
Get out
talking to
of
chat.
What
I don't
is
even.
that?
I
Is
don't
there a
even know
chatter?
why why is this a podcast? I thought we were just like getting together as friends talking.
here. Basically,
Do you guys
That is
feel
what it
like
is.
Steve Martin and Robin Williams are somehow like the same genre of?
Honestly, no. I mean,
I think
in
Steve
term-
Martin is a lot more grounded in reality.
Hold on, really
you
quickly. You
seen
guys
Pink
haven't seen his
Panther?
'70s stuff. You haven't seen his '70s stuff.
No,
his
I
'70s
haven't.
stand-up was Steve Martin's '70s stand was not as bad as, but it was pretty. It was this
He
thing.
played
too.
a banjo.
It
and he
was-
had
it
an
was
arrow
very-
on its head.
It was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much aligned with what Robin Williams was doing, but
was
not at
zany.
the extreme levels of it.
That's
I
the
hate
thing.
zany. I don't
But-
like zany.
But the
Have
thing
you
is,
seen Pink Panther?
is the difference of,
That was
the
terrible.
route that it took. Like even
I
the
actually
Pink
really liked
Panther in the 2000, what was it, 2004? Is that the one you're
Something
talking
like
about?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The mid 2000s. So that one, that was kind of like the decline of the zany. You know, he's kind of getting out of that. 'Cause I know that's how he got
2006.
started. He was like
2006,
wacky.
really?
Okay,
Yeah.
I was close. But
I
then
didn't
there
even
was
see that
also-
shit.
There was also Cheaper by the Dozen, which was a grounded in
think that's
reality comedy movie, which is a
One of my
Yeah, they're
favorite
fun.
things I've
Fun
ever
movies.
seen
Fun
Steve
movie.
Martin in.
And
He's
even Steve
funny.
Martin in The Three Amigos, he's not a
amazing.
crazy character.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
actually, he's the more realistic one. So I
Yeah.
think you guys, I mean, sure, you're right when it is stand up and everything like that, but I don't think he's had a whole lot of crazy roles. Like Robin Williams has done Mrs. Doubtfire, and that is going to be by far the biggest crazy
the
comedic
fucking
role.
top, yeah.
It's probably bigger
Yeah.
than, it's probably just as big, if not bigger than Ace Ventura, because I don't really like Miss Doubtfire, but I love Ace Ventura. So, and it's the same.
See, I
I
don't
like
like
Mrs.
Ace
Doubtfire.
Ventura.
I love Ace
Love
Ventura, and
Ace
I really
Ventura.
like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mm.
Mrs.
I also don't
Doubtfire
like Dumb and
is
Dumber very much.
oh,
Oh, love
get
Dumb
off!
and Dumber.
Someone hang up on him.
I know.
Someone hang up on him.
I know.
I can boot him.
I didn't grow up with it. I watched it
I
too
understand
late.
that though, because a
Oh,
lot of
man.
stuff that people think is hilarious. I'm something like, I don't know. It's fine. Like everybody loves Mel Brooks. I don't think I've seen one Mel Brooks film that I think is remotely
He's all
amusing.
right. He's all right.
Just not funny. It all feels like
Baseballs?
Damn.
not funny.
I like
It feels like
Breakfast
really,
Club.
really shitty high school comedy.
History of the
Is
World.
what those all feel like, man.
History of the World.
History of the
History of
World
the-
has its moments,
Mhm.
but I don't watch it. And like we just watched Airplane,
Mhm.
me, Doug, and Amron, and I mean I know the fucking jokes and I'm still laughing my tits off.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, that fucking movie.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
just
Airplane's pretty
fucking
funny.
hilarious every time I watch it. So we gotta end this pig because I actually got to piss again.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm hungry. I'm starving.
But let's do the Candymans.
Two-parter. I love it. This is
All
All
fantastic.
right.
Yeah.
Brent, we got to get together, you, me, and Dana, and we'll watch
Yeah.
Candyman at
The-
the movie theater and then at your house in your home theater.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
do you wait?
We
the
should watch
original first?
Candyman original
watch
at
the
my
original.
house, and then
You gotta watch 92
movie
first.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta watch
Totally
the
We're
first one
covering
first.
them.
It is
both.
not a remake. It is
Yeah.
a sequel.
Right.
Okay.
This
Got
is true.
it.
We did,
Watch
say,
that.
we did
Spoilers.
say this.
Okay.
we
Even
did
though
say
there's
this.
many Candyman sequels,
Yeah.
this one bypasses all those apparently and goes.
Yep.
And
We just got to
Reboot
watch the
of
first
the
one and then
sequel.
watch the new one, right?
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
and when we get off the podcast here, I need a couple of you to stay because I have some camping questions.
Oh,
So
okay.
campers stay.
Yep.
Campers
I-
stay after class.
Isn't that everybody besides Doug?
Doug may have.
I
He
don't-
was in the
I don't
army.
know.
He camped.
I was
I
in the
don't know who-
army.
Yeah, that's
I don't
what
know
he did for a
who's-
living for 2
I
years.
did camping without the tents and the.
He did camping without the
food
fun.
All right. We're all staying.
I like camping. I don't know if I would
And
call
we're all
myself a
staying.
camper.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end this
I'm
thing.
going to talk to guys who just climbed up a mountain and camped. That's what I'm going to talk
Yeah.
Oh,
Guys who just
good,
did it.
then I'll leave.
Dana didn't introduce us at the start.
I know. I'm sorry, but
Wow.
I have been and always will be in my heart joined by Doug Waters, Daniel Waters, myself,
about.
Daryl Waters, Ben Nickerson, Jeremy Dallas, Brent Price. Wow, I forgot your last name for a second.
You
Just
bastard.
Brent.
I know. It's just Brent Bront. So thanks for watching Jacob's Ladder with us. Candyman original and the sequel, the new sequel by Jordan Peele and the director who I can't remember the name of.
Nia DaCosta
Thank you.
is directing the
Yeah,
the
for
new
next
one.
week.
Yeah.
For next week. So next Tuesday, we're just gonna start at 8 now. That seems like a good time because I can actually eat beforehand, even though I
Yeah.
didn't do it again this time. And
We're not rushed at 8 or
Yeah.
R6.
Yeah.
Ben can
I like-
finish
I like
watching the
8 o'clock.
movie and
Yeah.
Can get
That's
home
right,
from the
yeah.
movie theater. Yeah. But we'll
Huh.
actually go on the weekend, right, Ben? Not on Tuesday before the. Ooh. All right. Well, all right.
It's a mine
Catch you
now.
guys.
Starting the
next week.
podcast from the movie theater.
There we go. You should have done that when we were coming back from Green Knight. But Discord link is down below. Go follow us there. Instagram is We Like This Pod or WLT Podcast. I always forget, and I'm on it like all the time. And then please subscribe so you can catch us every week. Bye, y'all. Later. Love
Bye.
you.